Hello and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'll be your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, Michael Damiani.
How's it going, everyone?
Ian Hink.
Hi.
And my Doug Trio snapping co-moderator, Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello. Doug Trio.
Doug Trio.
Wow, I don't think I've actually seen a Doug Trio.
It's the first thing you saw. It's like literally one of the first Pokemon.
Dodrio.
Is it Dodrio? That was Is it Dod?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Doug
okay.
Trio is a
I was
little
like,
mole guys.
What do you... Yeah.
Oh.
I was so
Well, maybe
lost
they're
for
in
a
there.
second.
What do you know, Jones?
They might be in there.
Yeah.
They might be in there.
There's a desert level.
Distinguished guests. This is not the first time we'll be correcting Pokemon names or talking about them. Distinguished guests, we are here to talk about some of the biggest events in the world of video games. But before we do that, we must first answer for all of the mistakes we made last week. Daniel Bloodworth, begin corrections music, please. Boop. Ian, RE2 Remake was announced way back in 2015. It was this like really uncomfortable conference room video of him being like, yeah, we're going to do this. And we were like,
Yeah.
Damn.
That was awesome.
I remember being so skeptical and just like, whatever. Like, this is going to be some weird PC port thing.
I forgot
Cool.
about that. I forgot about
I
that.
never forgot about that.
So
That's
releasing in
good.
2019 was actually quite a ways to wait. I think we'd all just kind of given up on it. I don't know.
The real announcement was
announcement, yeah.
the
The affirmation. Bethesda's Creation Engine and Gamebryo are kind of the same thing. We talked about engines. I'm sure we were going to get a bunch of corrections. That was the main one. According to Marcus 3 Run, Crash 4 had mediocre sales. It did okay. And the Insane Trilogy sales bottomed out after a while. The game sold very fast, but I said I was surprised, after their success that they were being, that Toys for Bob was making Call of Duty stuff now. And they were like, well,
Sorry.
I still think it did
funny
well.
came up.
I still think
Yeah.
of things to come back. That just
It
seemed like
did
something
well, but there
a
was
lot of
this
people
quote
are
that went
buying and
around
talking
recently where they're like, we want everything we do to do Call of Duty numbers. And I'm like, sure, so
Good
does everybody
fucking luck,
else.
bro.
Yeah, Crash
good
doing
luck.
that. I mean, maybe something like Ratchet and Clank has a chance, but...
Not even, dude. Not a chance.
I laughed that Tim Sweeney had to point out the consoles last week. That's so the court knew what they were, not to prove that Tim Sweeney knew what they were. Frankly, I didn't care. I just it was funny, but like obvious. Yes, that makes sense. That's
Could be
somebody in
both.
the jury could be like, the ostentatious one is the PlayStation 5. Got it. There is a Pokemon called Slakoth. Not Slagoth was a Monster Hunter monster, but
Slaggoth, wasn't it?
Slagoth was the thing that wasn't a Pokemon, but there is a Pokemon called Slakoth. So if you were to assume that there would be, you'd be one letter off. So that would be understandable. There was a magazine called Play. OPM just is rebranding as it, and the company also published that. So they were just like, why don't we take this crew that should be working on fun stuff and this brand that we already have and bring back Play? So I was like,
Cool.
I thought I was tripping.
Will it still just cover PlayStation? Do we know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think that's, it's just losing that official PlayStation magazine.
Okay.
So that's, they're just not being branded that way. They're not that associated with Sony, I guess.
That fresh hot gaming magazine news coming from the Easy Allies podcast. And finally, from Duncan Corrigan on YouTube, I'm a game designer based in Sydney, so here's some Aussie-made games. We can think of some at the top of our heads. Hollow Knight, Untitled Goose Game, Golf Story, Golf with Your Friends, Moving Out, Hand of Fate, Hacknet, Antichamber, Armello, City of Brass, Framed, Urmarangi Generation, Necro Barista, Grace Bruxner Presents The Haunted Island, a frog detective game. We've also have some notable publishers like Fellow Traveler that put out In Other Waters and Genesis Noir. And finally, some upcoming Aussie games include XO1, which I am pumped for, which actually got to check out a little bit of, and it's very, very cool. It's like SSX meets UFOs. Wayward Strand, The Artful Escape, and Heavenly Bodies. Yay, Australia! And corrections music, please.
Those are
And
all sick.
also Borderlands pre-sequel was brought up, which is very famously just themed around Australian accents and stuff on the moon, as if the moon is Australia.
Crunch that corrections music. Nice. We have things. We get to talk about VR coming up, and I love talking about VR. I love being moderator of this
Fun for
podcast, so I
you.
can be like, guess what? We're talking about VR.
Yeah, VR.
We're going to talk about earnings. Ubisoft is talking about doing one thing and then doing another. We're going to play a game guessing what Japanese publisher revenue has been. Talk about the Video Game Hall of Fame, which we don't talk about that much, which should be way bigger than it actually is.
Don't know much
And
about it.
because we have to, and it's hilarious, talk more about Epic v. Apple. But I want to start with the silver lining, something we can be proud of, something we can be happy about. If I say Shirley Curry, does anybody know who Shirley Curry is? Shirley Curry. Vice K Skyrim Grandma. Does anybody know who Skyrim Grandma
Oh,
is?
yes. Yes, I do.
Damiani, do you know about the Skyrim Grandma? Shirley Curry is 80-something. I think 83. She's pushing 80. Loves Skyrim, plays it all the time, streams it a bunch, has actually taken a little break from streaming it because people were like, you're playing Skyrim wrong. And it's like, there's no depths that this industry, can sink to other, more than accosting a plus 80-year-old woman who's enjoying a very old open world RPG and playing it the way she wants to play it, because who cares? Long story short, she can now be. You can mod her into the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. You can have her around as an NPC follower. She will follow you, and she provided voiceover for it. This was produced by Nexus
Oh my
Mods.
God.
And so if you want Shirley Curry to follow you around and talk about stuff, I don't know how much VO is in there. One would hope she was in the booth for weeks and just literally points at absolutely every little thing. Bethesda has also promised that she'll be in the Elder Scrolls 6 somewhere, but we know how much Bethesda promises are worth.
Interesting.
We'll see.
I love
Hitting
that.
NPC, nice.
Shirley Curry.
It would be
Good
funny
win.
if like her playing it wrong would just be like slapping any NPC that kind of like talks back to her. Just like, no, you can't do that. You're gonna aggro them.
That would be amazing.
Like
She
I don't like the way he looked at me.
just rushes into battle.
From what I've seen, she's very nice.
She's very, very nice.
Nice.
PlayStation 5 VR got an update. What's exciting about this, especially fresh off of all the Epic v Apple, leaks and
It was
stuff,
all like rumored though, right?
is it's just rumors of what they're talking about with their partners. I also bring this up because the HTC announced the 5K Vive Pro 2. So it's really interesting to say there's a lot of people weighing in. Apparently Apple is thinking about making a VR headset. So I want to talk about VR to kick it off, because we don't every now and then, whenever I talk about VR on the podcast, there's always like one comment on YouTube that's like, yay! And I'm like, thanks, VR guy in the back. It's going to be interesting to see how well VR does, how much money people are going to spend on VR in this generation. Not sure how models of VR headsets get into it. So this wasn't an official release. It's not a blog on Sony's website. This is just what allegedly they are sharing with their partners. Damiani, 4,000 by 2,040 pixels. That's 2,000 to 2040 per eye.
So that sounds good,
lot of
but
pixels.
earlier this week I did see the new Vive. Well, you literally just said it.
The
I'm not.
5K Vive Pro 2, which has it right there in the title, 5K. I mean, that is...
I understand how ridiculously expensive it is, but isn't its resolution per eye like way more? I like, that's the thing. Like, is that a lot what you're saying for VR or not?
I feel bad.
I have no idea.
I'd
It sounds like it's better than the Quest 2.
It's more than the Quest 2, yeah.
Okay.
The Quest 2 is
Like,
like
where does it sit in
2,000
the
per eye, I
rankings
think?
there? Yeah, I need some understanding.
Yeah, so it's 4K versus 5K essentially.
Quest 2 is 1832 by 1920 per eye.
in
Yeah,
doing
the
research for
the
this,
PSVR 1 was only 960 by 1080 per eye. So
Okay,
this
so-
is like
so
more
it-
than double.
Okay, so it's a big.
Yeah.
It is a big jump. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jones.
would you like to know the leader, the current VR leader in VR headset resolution for consumers?
What's the top?
Who's
line?
winning?
Index?
I'd never heard of this headset before. The HP Reverb G2.
Sounds cool.
Wow.
Whoops. We thought we were covering
Reverb
this
in
industry.
G2, man.
The HP being HP,
Yeah,
Reverb
HP.
G2, and I guess was launched with,
Can't build a printer worth a damn. but-
consumers knowing, and again, I'm taking a lot of this from Upload VR, who has been reporting on all of these updates, and I just thought that was funny that I hadn't heard of it, and they were the clear leader in resolution. The HTC 5K Pro 2 is $800. You can pre-order it now. I scrolled through this website with the intent to buy, even though I wasn't going to, but I wanted to get in that mindset of like, okay, and it reminded me of like, when you plan on building like a moderate PC, and you're just like, I don't need these bells and whistles. The two cards, two things side by side. I don't need that. And
I'm
then
not familiar with that.
Oh,
too.
man,
Yeah,
and then
what is this?
Look who you're talking
what
to,
bells
Joe.
and
It's
whistles?
well, I mean, there's a
Yeah,
difference
what?
between wanting it and actually spending money on it.
Okay,
so
yeah.
You're literally
No, there's
looking.
not.
You're looking
You
at the
didn't,
boxes.
you didn't get a Threadripper, so it's like
I didn't get a Threadripper.
There you
Oh,
go.
wait, did I? Wait,
Did
is
you?
mine a Threadripper? I don't remember.
You gotta cut corners somewhere.
But the bells and whistles add up, Jones. I'm curious. The thing it seems like everyone wants from VR that seems to be like the biggest premium cost and hardest thing to nail down is wireless VR. That seems to be like the buzz that people want. Like they want to like have the headset wireless.
Which it seems like everybody's dealing with the exception of Sony. Again, this stuff isn't official. We've seen the controllers. We haven't seen any form factor for what the headset is going to look like. I think the most interesting part of what Sony has said so far is just that they're interested. That like they're actually we're going to spend money on this soon. Not like way late.
Well,
not like Animal Crossing late. Would
that be because of what Gabe Newell recently said? That the Steam Valve exclusives would be coming to consoles maybe later this year. And then everyone has immediately assumed, Half-Life Alyx. Or what was it? Valve.
He said there would be more info about that later.
Blood. Shut Damiani down. Yes.
If it turns out to be true, you would think Half-Life Alyx would be like coming to PSVR. Would be it. Like that's the big thing, right? So maybe
Valve's not making a lot of games. So yeah.
There's
not a lot of options.
But also, like the older classics aren't on current gen. Like the Orange Box isn't on anything beyond 360, PS3.
Right.
I mean, it's on PC.
Left 4 Dead would be nice to get a remaster.
For the purpose of VR, though, Jones, Half-Life Alyx coming to consoles, maybe to PlayStation first, this PSVR update, that could be one of the reasons because they're dealing behind the scenes and they're like, yeah, we want that Half-Life Alyx day like very soon.
A lot of people said that when they saw the controllers, which we have seen, and there were some people that thought we should have talked about that more. So that also contributed to us leading the podcast with talking about updates to PlayStation 5 VR. But the controllers, you got the haptics, so they push back just like the DualSense. They track in the headset camera, so there's less setup. You're wired in. Supposedly, they haven't said it's not or it is, but I'm assuming the PlayStation VR is going to be wired in.
Yeah, I think so.
And because it's got to be competitive visually, and so that obviously the Quest 2 has a lead, but then you get all these potential exclusives Sony can put on there, plus potentially a cheaper way to play stuff like you were saying, Damiani, with Half-Life Alyx. And controllers got the analog sticks for finger position sensing, so a lot of people when they saw those were like, Alex, here we go. They're definitely going to make a push to do that.
Nice.
Eye tracking too is another big thing in that rumor. So that the headset will see where you're looking, and so it'll be more accurate. If you're aiming at a thing and you throw, it's gonna adjust based on what you're looking at.
That's the heavy rumor side of it. That's the side that they're like, that's when it gets a little huberish, where you're just like, and it'd be cool. But it's interesting because I was reading up on that Bloodworth, and it kind of makes you into a mutant, where it's like, where you throw a thing is half of the aim, the other is that you're actually looking at it, and it's like you would specify how much you would want one to lean into the other. So just like auto aim, you're just like no, where I throw it is where I throw it, because I've thrown a lot of things in VR very poorly, but when you actually do it, it feels really good. Like it's fun if you can actually try to pull that off. Like super hot if you try to like pick up an ashtray and kill somebody with it, like you can do it, you get better at it. But it's interesting because we talked about Apple, we talked about all of the the people already in the game, but specifically just talking about Oculus Quest 2, 5K Vive Pro 2, and PlayStation. I don't see anybody really picking up either of these. I just see these like perfectly fitting a specific type of consumer. The Quest 2 is $300. It's all in one. Like it's such a great sell. But if you have a PlayStation, I think it's a smart thing if you don't have any VR hardware to get invested. And then the more I read about 5K Vive Pro 2, which I can get into in a second, but do you see these really competing against each other? Do you see a clear winner here?
I think on some level, Oculus and PlayStation are going to be competing more than anything because they're going to be the most consumer friendly.
Because you don't need a big ass computer to. Yeah.
Right. And I think the difference that PlayStation has, and I think this is borne out by the original PlayStation VR, is any headset they put out is going to be seen as a PlayStation peripheral. And so, number one, they're not going to make it more expensive than a PlayStation 5. So it has to fit, under those price tags. And number two, they're not going to try to split their user base. I don't think they're going to create another VR headset until the PlayStation 6. So it's got to have, a long life to it.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing about the 5K, I was reading initial impressions from people at the announcement because I was curious because the price tag, you said the 800, but like there's more.
$799, excuse me.
Isn't that like an early price or something? It goes up after a certain point, and then like it's a pre-order price, and then there's another component that's like $300. That's pretty much a must-have for it. So it's really like $1,100 or $1,200.
Every VR hardware I've ever seen has like, well, you can buy the thing that doesn't make it excruciatingly painful. Would you like that as well? Like, yes,
Yeah.
I'll take that.
But it seems so high.
When I got
like,
the
it's
Quest
almost
2,
like,
my friend gave me a laundry list. He's like, all right, you're going to need to spend at least $200 more on this, and this. Like, oh,
even though it's base
you
price,
at
it
least
seems
needed the link cable.
Yeah, it seems out of reach for a lot of people still. Like the high
Sure.
end model. Yeah.
Which, again, it does not surprise me about the status of VR. What does surprise me is that I'm leading the Easy Allies podcast this week talking about all these different weird VR announcements, because there isn't anything that really takes the lead, and I just think it's time to just get a refresher for everybody on VR. And the reason why I brought up the PC specs is because I'm looking at the 5K Vive Pro 2, and I'm just like, hey, I am so stoked about my Oculus Quest 2. I can't believe I can wireless this thing now. I haven't even tested that yet. Like, that's so exciting.
Yeah, me neither.
And so it's like $800 on something that I need the big beefy PC to run anyway. Well, with the HTC and all of the fun thing, obviously they've been in the VR development for quite a long time. They got the Vive Tracker 3.0 over there, which you can use as a body sensor. So you got these little extra trackers, and you can either put them on yourself to do crazy things. And again, a lot of people aren't designing games to take advantage of these things, but like if you really want to get crazy, like a lot of PC players do, you can put that on yourself, or you can put it on a real world object. So now anything becomes something that exists in the world. So if you're playing a game and you're like, yeah, I have this object in the world, I don't want a controller to do that. I want the thing to do that. I want it to be a box. I want it to be whatever. You put a sensor on that. Again, like, you can imagine the market for VR and then the market for this thing. It's like, this is a really tall, small slice.
Yeah.
So while it's something that HTC is promoting, it's not people buying in. You go down that rabbit hole of thinking how you could potentially use this tech in the future.
I could see that being really big for like VTubers and like virtual personality stuff. Like you could do cool stuff with that.
Or them potentially thinking of going grassroots with like people making like VR haunted houses or VR, pop-up things. And it's just for a very easy price, we can come in and just outfit whatever and just put these little suckers on there.
I mean, my thing for the longest time, and I don't know if it exists yet or not. It probably does. Somebody's probably done it in Vegas or something. It's just like, creating a laser tag maze that like is a real maze.
Yeah.
But also having in VR the textures to make it whatever environment you want.
AR,
The
VR,
Void,
all
baby.
of it. It's like you have all of it running simultaneously.
That's the Void.
What's coming to PC and consoles is fun, but again, like how much, 15-year-old birthday parties is really the bleeding edge tech market.
Yeah,
we're talking about
exactly.
right now. It's like, how can we... Facial tracker, which when I first heard about it, I was like, how the hell does that apply to games? It doesn't really. It applies to like conferences and business meetings with, play Mortal Kombat with a friend in Vietnam, actually having meetings with people and them tracking your voice and your eyes better and stuff like that. Again, super tiny market, but something that, Quest 2's not really
a
talking
super
about
tiny.
that much.
Actually, with before the original PlayStation VR launched, I was at a GDC thing where they had like this prototype that never came out in any form, but they were doing things, they didn't have the sophisticated eye trackers and stuff we're talking about now, but they were doing things to try to make sure that the characters' eyes for the other players, were essentially like looking towards you when they were talking at you and, head tilts and stuff like that. Because if you're going to be in a virtual space with other people, like the eye contact and, body language and all that is super important.
Yeah.
Even just playing something like mini golf with my buddies, like it's like I can't see your eyeballs, but I can tell you're looking at me. It's like it's fun. You can see a lot of personality come out when you get all this facial tracking. So again, these things that the VR tech is going to advance in, whether we're buying them or not, it's just fascinating to see how many companies get involved, what they are spending it on, and then you got that wireless adapter. Again, it's a bonus, so you got to add it to that cart. But for the 5K Vive Pro 2, which you can pre-order now, you can go wireless. And if you're curious about how good the PlayStation 5 VR needs to do, PSVR, according to Upload VR, sold 5 million units by 2019. So obviously they've gone past that, but it's nice to think of 5 mil as the goal. And hey, yay, 5 million PSVRs. Feels good. Probably many people out there.
I mean, I remember it being sold out a lot of the time. So I don't know if they've done probably another million since then. I definitely think it's cooled since 2019.
I can see that in an investor's call at Sony. Like, it was sold out a lot of the time.
I tried.
I bought one. Ted over there bought. I did. I bought it. Couldn't get it.
My kid couldn't get one.
Ubisoft had an earnings call, and earnings calls are fun. It's fun when we play telephone, just like Bye Bye Birdie. You call and it's like, what? Eve said what? Like he said to this guy. So again, this is not the stuff we are hearing from other people. And Ubisoft is fascinating, which is why we're going to talk about Japanese publishers in just a second. But I want to talk about Ubisoft on their own because they are doing really good and screwing up really bad at the same time. Like I can't think of another publisher that has,
the Ubisoft story, dude.
Capcom and Konami together. How do they manage to do that? Because there's a lot of like, hey, don't worry, everything's going great. And I know we might have said some things recently, but we're doing everything at Ubisoft. And part of me thinks like, wait a minute, Valhalla and Phoenix Rising destroyed. They both did, like Valhalla especially, did really, really, really well. Critics this, critics that. Like sales were great, and we just have our final DLC, so we're gonna be selling into that this year. And then I'm like, oh wait, yeah, Watch Dogs Legion. Like, oh that's right. Oh wait, that online mode that like nothing happened. They had delayed it and then just like didn't get any traction whatsoever. But then you're like, oh wait, but For Honor and Rainbow Six and all these all these other things that they're still supporting.
Hyperscape, dude.
Isn't like Division 2 doing still well?
That came out.
Yeah, my roommate David, we were talking about something, and I was like, yeah, like in Watch Dogs Legion, like that came out. I'm like, yes, it came out last month. Like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I'm sure it came out.
Pretty sure.
That's how it came and went. Sorry.
It's tough because Watch Dogs Legion is fun. It's very fun. You can recruit all these weird people, and it's a fun game. I recommend it if you like open world games. But like, you even try brushing up against GTA 5. You even try to have a hint of like, hey, we can maybe bring to you the stuff. Like, they're not going to jump. Like, nobody. It's going to take a lot for those. Like, those players jump to something totally different.
Maybe
to a Call of Duty.
One of their
or
new
Fortnite.
strategies will. Watch Dogs has a future in their new strategy that they want to do.
Well. What's the strategy, Damiani? What's their? Because they may or may not be doing this, depending on who you ask and when you ask them.
Oh, well, I thought
a little overblown, I think, yeah. But
so the report was that while none of their AAA output is going to change, that was, I think, the misreport is that people thought in exchange for cutting AAA games, Ubisoft was going to pursue more AAA free-to-play style games, but it's just in addition to their regular annual output. They want to do more high-budget free-to-play games because if you look at there's a graph out there that shows like the money share of the market out there. Consoles are kind of as big, but it's kind of been like stagnant for a while. PCs is sort of expanding, but it's about the same as console. But like free to play and mobile's just like going like skyrocketing, and you'd have to be crazy. It's like the most obvious thing. Like this is like in like old man yelling at clouds like level of like being like if you're annoyed at this because like it's obvious. It's like this is going to happen because it's just they're chasing that Fortnite type of money. Like they want to be a part of that, and Ubisoft has a lot of IPs that is perfect for these types of games. I think this is only going to end up being really good if it turns out to be what they actually are doing.
To steal from a story coming up in court, Epic, when asked about what the next frontier of Fortnite is, they said mobile, hands down. They're like, mobile is the number one thing. That's why we're in court right now. They're like, we're not freaking out about PCs or consoles in terms of like what we're limited in doing. They're like, mobile is absolutely a thing we need to explode on.
Well, I think
in a brilliant quote. Wait till you get that quote. The quote's
it's a funny thing because it's like it's framed in a sense of opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. So like the idea is that like, okay, everybody that has a console that would play Fortnite is probably already playing Fortnite. Whereas on mobile, it's like there's just millions upon millions of people that could potentially be playing Fortnite that aren't yet. And that's why there's a higher opportunity for growth. And just the install base is so much bigger too.
Which brings us back to
Ubisoft, yeah.
The Division Heartland. I was reading this, and then they kind of, in some of the articles I read, were like kind of like, like Heartland. I was like, Heartland, they announced this just recently, and we have like zero to no details, little to none. And I still was like, I don't understand that. What's weird? Why isn't this DLC? And then now reading this, like, of course, like you were saying, Damian, it's like, of course.
Yeah.
But it's weird it's not its own IP. They're kind of hanging on to Division. Like, are they going to try this with Rainbow Six later or what, you know?
I feel like, yeah, like Rainbow Six, I think the Tom Clancy stuff makes a lot of sense. In fact, like, even if they want, like, they could even go somewhere and, like kill two birds with one stone, bring back a fan favorite thing, because I kind of thought they already maybe did something this maybe forgot, like with the Splinter Cell. And if they want to bring that franchise back, pursuing it either on mobile or bringing it into, like, the free-to-play space somehow, because one of the avenues, the biggest things they do is you either go like the battle royale free to play route, or you go the gacha route, like Genshin Impact. And while Ubisoft doesn't strike me as the company that's going to go for the waifu type gacha thing, they do have a bevy of strong things. I think they make, like, it's like even Assassin's Creed. Like, what if you had a game, a free-to-play Assassin's Creed game, in addition to, like, the normal story ones, where your characters you get are from the different time periods. You actually could mix up different time periods from the Animus playing against each other in, like, almost a battle royale, or you want that certain samurai skin, you got to do it this way, or you want, like, the modern soldier and get the Splinter Cell skin, or the Ezio, or the whatever skin. Like, that's it. Like, I think that's where this is all going to go for them, and I think as long as you still get their traditional games, it's like, I think everyone's going to be happy. It's just that initial knee-jerk reaction and panic of, no, you're going to take away some of the stuff I like in exchange for this new stuff that's scary and, like, I view as inferior because of my biases and stuff. You know, that's just, you know, how this always goes, it seems.
Yeah, I think part of what goes into that, and I think they mentioned this in the clarification a day or so later, when people asked them, is they are separately already kind of been shaking up how they're handling their AAA games, because they've seen that, you know, putting out Assassin's Creed every year was having kind of diminishing returns, and they're seeing more success if they take the time to polish the game, to put in all the content and all the features that they want, and then release a really good game. And then, like, Valhalla was, like, what, the best Assassin's Creed sales for, you know, I don't know if ever, but for a long time. And so they kind of shuffled around their whole
There's
schedule.
no reason to change what's going on with Assassin's Creed, right?
Yeah, well, no, they did change what they were doing with Assassin's Creed, and then now they're seeing the benefits from that. So, like, all these other dates, we're going to push them back. We're going to give them more time. We're going to make sure we put out quality games. And it's kind of the same when we'll get into the Japanese stuff. Capcom is like, hey, we put out really good games, and they sell when they come out, and then they keep selling year after year. And that's kind of, you know, I think part of the strategy is if you do that, if you commit the time to making sure your games are pleasing to people and get good word of mouth, right, then when you get your sales, you get another wave of people because it's got a good reputation.
They're seeing that pay off. It's just whenever historically, like, that doesn't work, though, that's when I think that one big failure is the one that turns them off, and, like, they do, like, such a severe course correct. And sure. I think historically we've seen, like, while that might provide short-term solutions and, like, to their problem, and the strategy you outlined, Bloodworth, I think is the best long-term strategy for a lot of these companies. And I think more of them are starting to buy back into it. I'm hoping this new change, like you said, that happened at Capcom, is not just like a temporary, like, oh, for the last 3-4 years I've been doing this. Like, I hope it keeps up. It sounds like it's going to be keeping up. I just wish with Ubisoft you're talking about, it's just sad that we know that some of these games might not be a part of that, unfortunately. Like who knows what the heck's going on with Beyond Good and Evil 2. It's like,
oh, there's nothing.
Like that one, like that's like the sad one. It's like, they're spending all this time and effort, except that one's not going to come out. It doesn't. They won't ever cancel it. It still says it's in development on their website. It's like,
right.
Oh.
But that's actually an interesting thing, because going back to Epic as an example, it's like, because they're making Fortnite money, then they can sort of do whatever the heck they want, funding Remedy and it's not Team Eco anymore, but the Ueda game, and I think that's one of the things. It's like, if they can make a lot of money off of these free-to-play games and that model, then it could result in them having just more creative freedom and the other stuff, because the pressure's not on to those games to do much more than make their money back.
That's a good call. Do you think? Yeah, I was curious if you thought Heartland was going to do well. We don't know anything about it, so
I don't know. I do wonder, like, because these are all kind of the more hardcore areas. Like, they also have, like, they had Rayman on phones a long time ago, that runner kind of, and, like, makes me wonder if they would try to go after a younger market, like the Roblox crowd, with like a Rabbids thing or a, something in that arena too. Like, because I think they could kind of hit every market on mobile, younger markets too.
Yeah,
Rayman I love Rayman, so.
I'm pretty sure they've had some Rabbids mobile stuff already for sure.
Probably, yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, some of those games would fit really well in there. Even, if they could do like crossover stuff, I know Nintendo. I mean, actually, you never know because Nintendo might get into mobile, like Mario and Rabbids. I was saying like that game actually would be perfect on mobile for me.
Yeah.
It'd be
I'd
really
play that
good
on mobile. I mean, it's more of a traditional game, but like you imagine like the monetization, the skins, like the extra Mario characters.
You could gotcha with new Rabbids and new Mario characters and skins for Rabbids and new guns. Like you could gotcha the hell out of that.
Like superficial gear stuff people love, and like one of their upcoming games, Riders Republic. I think I don't know if that's in the details.
Damiani dropping the Ubi titles. I love it.
We kind of talked about this on another show I just did recently, so it's kind of fresh in my memory.
Right.
But I did remember Riders Republic because that seems like a game right for, hey, you want that backpack, you want that like custom frame for your bike or whatever, you want that sticker, because Trials kind of did that already, but through like in-game loot box, non-paid obviously, but like in-game currency. But people like customization of their vehicles and their characters, so that's something that, like, that's what I'm saying. Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs like is a paid traditional game, but maybe if you made it free to play, you get more people to try it out, and get a bigger audience, and then they might see a bigger return on microtransactions on cosmetics through a game like Watch Dogs, and trying to do that more traditional, since it doesn't seem like Legion did as well as it probably should have, if they don't want to give up on that series and maybe repurpose it.
Skull and Bones has been delayed now to April 2022. Do we think they're like shoving this into that paradigm? Do we think maybe that's why that they're like buy boats?
I could see it being free to play. I don't see it on mobile, but I mean, who knows?
Because it's such a solid gameplay foundation. I don't feel like the gameplay side of this game is what's holding it back. I think they just are like, we're not sure what direction to really lean in terms of like.
It does seem to be more like
why you keep playing, what you're getting, what you get out of beating other players and stuff.
What keeps you coming back? Because like For Honor as an example, right? Like had great gameplay and like got, it's not unpopular, but it didn't blow up the way maybe some of us thought it might. And like I think that a game based around the very, very solid Black Flag naval combat stuff, like would be super cool, but I don't know if it has legs, and maybe that has been the problem.
I just imagine this like waterlogged, dungeon area like Ubisoft, where somebody ever since Black Flag came out, it's just like, I've been doing the boats. And they just bring a candle down there, like, how's it going? Just like, this like
delay it another year,
because it keeps coming up in the Assassin's Creed, in other games, and it's just like Ubisoft and boats. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah, they love them.
How much they've had to look
that was a good system.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
was it Sea of Thieves? Like,
still
how much they've had to look
ever.
at Sea of Thieves and what they've had to do to try and like.
Right.
Keep their content flowing in a similar style, like not exact, but pirate ships, stuff like that, and their struggles they've had. Maybe they saw like what was going on there, like we need to have a better plan than what we had. Like
the parallel is pretty clear. Yeah, you're totally right. Like, because Sea of Thieves has shifted more and more into that like battle pass seasons, kind of structure. Right. Yeah, for sure.
I think the difference to me and Skull and Bones, I think even the two times we got to play it was pretty different one time to the next.
Oh,
but
really?
To me, the weird thing with Skull and Bones compared to Sea of Thieves is Sea of Thieves it's really more about like community in a sense. It's about getting on and being with your friends and you doing whatever is
it has the arena mode, but which I've never tried because like I don't want to fight really.
Right. So it's like you can fight other people, but you don't. That's not really what you're necessarily in for. You can be in for that.
I mean, a lot of people are, but yeah.
But I think that
I see. So
it's being together. It's being together with your friends and just hanging out. Whereas Skull and Bones is more about competitive play and navigating into the wind the right way to get the advantage on the other player, and I think that super like PvP kind of focus made it really difficult to see like well, what's beyond this. Am I exploring? Am I discovering things? What am I doing with my friends?
And I can imagine like the balance between realism and like speed of play would be a really tough balance to strike, because like one of the things I love about Sea of Thieves is how meticulously realistic a lot of the physics and stuff are, and like a lot of people when they're playing PvP games, like they want to be able to do like a bunch of matches. So it's like if you've got this rigorous simulation game like where a match takes an hour and a half, like how's that going to go?
It's funny to go from like multiplayer wise being shot in the back of the head in Call of Duty, where like I didn't even see the guy that shot me. I didn't even know there's an opening in that room.
Go to that kill cam.
Versus well, some games don't have it, but versus going to Skull and Bones where like I see him on the horizon and then like a minute and a half later, it's like, we attack!
Like the slow inevitable. You're like, I'm screwed.
But it's different. It was cool. It was different.
Which I love. Yeah, I love it.
You play a lot of games at E3, and there's some appointments you walk out, you're like, well, but nothing I played was like that. Though. That was neat.
It being PvP focused, like so many of the strongest and most successful PvP focused games are free to play. That's how they get people, because you said like what else did they offer? It's like no, it's like the ease, the speed of the matches. Like you just get in there and stuff, and it's like here's some cosmetics, or you want access to this whatever thing. It's how they do it. And even some of the more successful ones have had to like shift their their paradigm a bit as they've seen. Oh, yeah, we maybe should go free to play instead of just charging this much for this game. So. Well,
it's funny too, because Skull and Bones, like the first big delay, my assumption was like, okay, maybe they're adding like a story or like some kind of substantial thing. Now it's been delayed like 3 more times, and I'm just like, well, now I have no idea.
It's like what?
We did get a scheduling update on the Star Wars game, which I'm very eager to find out more. I was not expecting at this point, or even several months from now, getting more information on that. And as Damiani pointed out, no word on Beyond Good and Evil. Skull and Bones being delayed is like, at least Skull and Bones got delayed. At least
like, acknowledge it.
It feels bad that it's far enough away for people to be excited about that. Beyond Good and Evil not even good enough to get
Beyond
a date
Good and Evil
that they
so
don't
strange.
stick to.
Well, isn't there even like a semi-public beta or whatever that like people are just testing that thing out, but I don't even know. Like,
there was
it's
the
not
like
something
Space
people
Monkey
talk about.
Squad or whatever, but I don't know if they've ever gotten to play anything.
We need to track down Joseph Gordon-Levitt and see what he knows.
JGL's in there?
That whole thing.
He had his company that was like make stuff that people were pissed because they're like, pay your artists. Don't have your artists pay you idiots. So I can see that both ways. And of course, Far Cry 6, as Damiani mentioned, Riders Republic, and Rainbow Six Quarantine, which is bigger than I thought it would be if it's taking that, or if it has been impacted as much as it has by the pandemic this past year. Still on track. And I'm, Far Cry 6 I think is gonna sell gangbusters. So Ubisoft just does well. So it's interesting. They always seem very cautious. Like Ubisoft always seems very. Obviously, there's a lot of messaging that's been not great in the last couple of years, just coming from the executives and a lot of issues, people leaving the company. But they still are like, they just seem very much on the defensive. So their CFO, Frederick Duguet, talked to investors and said 3 or 4 AAA games a year is no longer, quote, a proper indication of our value creation dynamics. Thank you, Frederick. Value creation
Love
dynamics.
That.
Beautiful.
Man, value
creation dynamics.
Man, it must be cool to be an executive and have to come up with these like buzzwords.
Well, you speak all the time.
But then they tried to out-buzzword the buzzworder, and then said later in an official announcement, our intention is to deliver a diverse lineup of games that players will love across all platforms. We're excited to be investing more in free-to-play experiences. However, we want to clarify this does not mean reducing our AAA offering. We're doing more. So a little bit of quality control there.
Nice.
Or damage control.
Damage control,
That's,
Or Ubisoft, which is
some people might. Was that the clarification or the people lost it?
Value creation dynamics.
Value creation.
It's very good.
The VCD.
Yeah.
The VCD is a +2.
Let's play the Japanese publisher revenue game. Yay! Which might be kind of unexciting because Bled and Damiani, specifically Damiani, you might have to sit this one out because you probably know this already, or maybe you can tell. We're talking about Ubisoft. They had investors call because their financial year on March 31st, much like many other companies. And I noticed both Bandai Namco, Konami, Capcom, and Sega all released their year-end financials.
Yeah.
So I have 4 companies and 4 numbers. And I want the panelists to guess. I'm going to throw this up so everybody can see. So I have the companies listed in alphabetical order.
A little blown out.
And I have the numbers listed. So you have Bandai Namco, Capcom, Konami, and Sega. One of these companies made a paltry $859 million. That's it.
Oh, that's $1 million.
That's $1 million. Okay. But one of them made 2.4 bill, one of them made 2.5 bill, and one of them made 6.8 bill.
Is this the whole company or the gaming?
This is the entire company. Yeah, their gaming divisions can be split up amongst other things, but this is the umbrella.
Sega and Capcom have to probably be the biggest then, right?
Sega
Sammy.
I'd say Bandai Namco and Capcom would be the biggest.
Konami could surprise you with all that gambling
gaming.
BS.
Yeah, and Konami has
Konami
I wouldn't
has all
say
that
Sega is the
pachinko.
lowest.
Sega's the
Capcom
lowest.
is the highest.
Okay, Sega's the lowest,
I would
Capcom's the
say-
highest.
I would say Capcom might be the 2.5 billion.
Oh, okay.
Konami, this might be a dark horse like trick. Konami could be the 6.8 bill just from gambling, but otherwise it's trash.
The two middle ones are too close for me to pick between them.
There are surprises on this list.
Bandai Namco is the 2.4 maybe. My guess would be Bandai Namco 2.4, Capcom 2.5, Sega 859 million, and Konami 6.8. But maybe that's completely off.
maybe. I think you've convinced me. Sega might be the lowest. Konami the highest.
Right.
Sorry. The only thing I
Talk
ever
amongst yourselves about Japanese game development.
I only read the Square Enix report.
Are you gonna do the line?
Yeah.
Square Enix had a record thing.
I love that.
Picture pages.
Like the
Yeah,
number
these are the
game
sort
is
of
fun,
physical
but
props that you can get used to whenever we return to
Sega
the
made some
studio.
good announcements though recently about the future. I mean,
They're working
Yeah.
on
they
a
said
mega game. or something.
Yakuza 7 was like the best-selling
we're getting
entry.
Ready to be shocked and amazed?
Go ahead.
Capcom's on the bottom, baby. Capcom made that 859 mil.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yep.
Bandai Namco 6.8 billion.
Bandai Namco's on
Anime
top.
games, Bandai.
Bandai Namco has a lot
Dragon
of
Ball.
toys
I
and
suppose, yeah,
all
you're
kinds of
right.
stuff going
I
on.
forgot
So for-
about toys.
For
dude.
listeners at
Toys.
home, Bandai Namco's the big boy. They got 6.8 bill. Sega's next in line with 2.5 bill. Just underneath them, Konami, because again, all that gambling money, and Capcom, even with all of the Monster Hunter and all of that Resident Evil money coming in, still can't crack a bill.
It's because they're playing it clean. They're only making
I mean,
games.
and Capcom is up
Yeah.
16.8%. Just in terms of how they are doing for last year, they are the best of these four. Konami was up 3.7%. Bandai Namco was up 2.3%. Sega's down 24%.
Yeah,
Wow,
but that's
that's
because of things
across
outside
the
of the
board. Right.
home gaming. Particularly, like a lot of their arcades and stuff got hit really hard last year, and they had to
Oh.
close
And no new
very
Sonic
key
game.
locations.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
There was no new Sonic
Yeah.
game.
And the Olympics being canceled probably hit Mario and Sonic.
Yeah.
Olympics 2020.
Yeah, I
so
think that's
hard.
pretty. I think that's pretty small compared to some of the other things that they're involved and invested in outside of what we normally think of.
Curious to see, what we thought. Again, we can dive, just like we did with Ubisoft, we can dive deep through all of those individual companies. But I just want to talk about them in general, just to get us. Capcom blew my mind. That was like the big thing. Konami, like making more money than I want them to, is like, all right, I just have to live with that. But Capcom not breaking a bill. I was surprised. But all doing well, and obviously these are pandemic inflated numbers, so it's gonna be interesting
But
to see.
that 840 whatever million feels like
859, right?
Yeah.
feels like the purest.
It's still,
you know, it's
yeah,
like,
it's
go
still
for
world
it.
sales.
Well,
It's
and-
Rise, and then if that includes Village, if that was too soon, if that was too late to make that cut, because that was for
It would not include.
yeah.
those,
So
but, no.
I mean,
Yeah.
the
Ending
Village,
March 31st, all of these.
Yeah, so Rise would be in there as well
Yeah.
for a few days, but
Rise probably sold pretty.
Village
hard.
did sell like 3 million.
it was
or
like the
something in
tied for
country.
second fastest or second like best opening for a Resident Evil game. So
Thanks, Lady D.
yeah, they seem to be like doing very well for just like focusing on a few series. They're knocking it out of the park, I think.
And we cannot
So
disguise
proud of
we at
Capcom.
Easy Allies very much enjoy the Monster Hunter and Resident Evil franchises.
Hey,
We will
right.
definitely
Capcom's
show up
back,
for all of
baby.
those.
And
So the
they're
idea
almost
that
back.
they're taking this money
They're
and
back. What
putting
the
it
hell?
into
Until I
interesting
see
things.
that Mega Man X9,
Oh,
they're
sure,
not
Mega Man.
fully back yet.
Okay.
We need a Dino Crisis.
And
a
Dino
Dino
Crisis.
Street
You were saying
Fighter.
Dino Crisis.
Street Fighter needs a
Fighter-
boost.
Street
we need
Fighter
a good Street Fighter, a
6.
good Mega Man,
Yeah,
a good Dino Crisis.
and we need another versus, or Marvel versus Capcom, or another versus game. There you go.
Well, that's why I'm not, Damiani, I'm not really nervous about the future of Resident Evil, or necessarily I don't have like any expectations.
So
like
you-
RE9 needs to do this, or the next multiplayer RE needs to be this weird thing, because like we did, like my cup runneth over. Like I can't believe I have a remake for RE2, RE3, I'm already playing the next one in line. It's gothic as hell, and I loved it. You know, like wow. You know,
it feels really good, but I
don't even
mean,
have time for Monster Hunter. But if I did, I'd be
nothing good could last forever. And I mean, they were hitting. They had Resident Evil 1, they had Resident Evil 2, they had Resident Evil 3, they had 4 in Code Veronica, and a lot of people love Code Veronica. That was a stretch of like huge wins for them over like a roughly 10-year period, 9-year period. And then some would argue they started going a little bit downhill with 5. I love 5, and then 6. Everyone's like, oh, they bottom out with 6. So it could be something as simple as just fatigue, Jones. Like it's the same. It doesn't surprise us anymore. Like too much of a good thing. It's like already not even surprising anymore. It's good, but it becomes another Call of Duty thing where it's like we're seeing it too soon, we're seeing it too often, and
it has been almost once a year, so it's.
Yeah,
and the pressure's on too. Like the longer the run of great games, the higher the scrutiny on your next game.
Yeah.
So then Capcom backs out of horror altogether and invests in pachinko. Then they make that Konami money. They more than double their revenue.
Yeah.
Just point out.
It's the smart play, frankly.
Hey, they see them at 2 point whatever billion, and they're not even at $1 billion yet. That's tempting for Capcom.
I say do both. You can make your Pachinko and your Resident Evils,
Pacino money's
different.
Yeah, it's a whole different
thing. Pacino very different.
Been in that game for a long time.
Pacino in Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Should I put my money in Pachinko or Pacino? It's tough.
They make an Al Pacino
whip
Pachinko
pan over
machine.
to Al Pacino.
Obviously, doesn't have much of a career left, but he's doing his best work.
Nicolas Cage was doing those Pachinko commercials. So good. What were you trying to say before Bloodworth?
What?
Oh, I was just saying that I think that's Konami's been involved in that business for a heck of a long time.
Oh, forever, yeah.
It's not new. It's just people are like, hey, why make video games? We could just do this. It's cheaper.
They're just stone cold bastards.
We don't need to hire actors.
What about Sega?
People.
What about Sega? They're neck and neck with Konami. They don't have to worry about anything.
Sega?
Well,
2.5 mil? You think that's not enough? Do it down 24%.
Are we gonna
down 24%?
Are we just guys talk about their announcements and the future of like Yakuza series, and, their plans for it? Because that
Lost
seems
Judgment.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty big deal. Like, obviously, Easy Allies, I'm probably at the lowest on the totem pole in terms of enthusiasm for Yakuza, but it's like turnaround and explosion. To me, it like mirrors like what happened with Fire Emblem over at Nintendo. Like, it's now at this point where it is one of their biggest franchises and is poised to become even bigger. Like Lost Judgment and them announcing that Judgment will be their action series going forward,
right?
And Yakuza will be their turn-based RPG, and saying how well Yakuza Like a Dragon did, which is probably why it's going RPG, is because of their best-selling entry. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a Yakuza 8 announcement very soon, because they're like, let's keep this going. These sales are really good, and people want these games. I'm happy for people who are very into Yakuza, and that series finally getting its due.
What I think is funny, though, Damiani, is them essentially seeing the success of Like a Dragon and saying, hey, I guess we should keep doing the turn-based thing with these. Because I don't think that's why it was successful.
Yeah.
I think it had almost nothing to do with why it was successful. I think it's successful because, A, it hit next-gen launch, and they had that partnership with Xbox, and so, there's a big, very long game that I can get into on Xbox. And then, B, it was sort of like this mix of the accumulation of the Yakuza franchise's reputation. Like, year after year, people saying, oh, Yakuza's really great, Yakuza's really great, but at the same time,
all the re-releases and stuff and remakes,
there is this continuous story. And so you always felt like, I have to start at 0 and I have to play 7 games. They're all really long. Yeah. And now here's this game was like fresh new character, fresh new story. You don't have to be caught up. And so like, I can finally jump in and not feel like I have a backlog.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought of this, but it made me laugh. I hope Yakuza 8 is called Yakuza Not Unlike a Dragon.
Also not a number in the West, so that's a big deal. Not calling it Yakuza 7 here.
Yeah.
It would have sold less, I think. I think you're totally right if it was called Yakuza 7.
That's a good point, Bloodworth. I think franchises that they're on that precipice, and it's like time to evolve. It might upset some fans. Like I know the announcement about the split of the genres for the two pillars now, Judgment and Yakuza, the Yakuza mainline series. There are some veterans who are not that happy about the action going only over to Judgment, but there's similarly just a good amount of people who are like, oh, this is great because it means this series is going to get more popular. It means they're putting more money into it. I mean, you're getting more games from this series. And it's not like action's going away. You just got to play something called Lost Judgment, which is the Judgment game apparently was exceptional as well, and people are really looking forward to this. So, I mean, same thing with like the story part, like something like even a simple name change, like calling it Fire Emblem like Three Houses. It's like, right. Oh, it's like it's establishing itself as a different format. It's a little bit different style, and there was a tiny bit of blowback on that, but at the same time, so many new people jumped in at that game. Also Ian, I was gonna say, Ian, you were those newcomers.
That game fucking rules.
Yeah,
man.
it works though. I think also because it creates more buzz around the game. People get more excited about it. You have to do something that bold, I think, and risk maybe the vocal minority, maybe like initially crying about it, or not crying, but like criticizing it.
I've cried about it when Halo lost their numbers.
Because I think that everyone comes around in the end. At the end of the day, even if they're still saying it, I think deep down everyone believes like, no, it was good. This was the right decision. Even the Trails of series, the one like everyone swears is so great and stuff, but like it's even a more daunting task to undertake than playing the Yakuza games. The newest one coming out is like a break from all the stories. It's like its own isolated thing, and I just saw like a video on it because someone's like, oh, if you're looking to jump in, this new one, don't have to catch up. They're also like doing it different. It's like more modern looking, and like they actually put a little bit of money into it, and it's like it's got action, and you can do turn-based. I was like, this looks way more appealing than anything I've ever seen from this series. I was like, so whatever they're doing here, this is correct, and I don't have to play like 80, 100 or 150 hour games to catch up. I will probably jump into this series now and try that game. So it works. It definitely does work.
Hubert told me that there's only 164 or 168 hours in a week, and then we were both having like an existential crisis. It's like, wow, yeah, that's like not that many.
It's only 160 hours for the next CCLS podcast. God
damn. Yeah,
oh, great. There we go.
And the podcast is like 3% of the entire whatever.
Well, you're gonna be asleep half of it too.
Oh my God, Bloodworth, come on now.
Challenge accepted, Blood.
Challenge accepted, yeah.
Challenge accepted. That Magnum's not gonna level up itself. Also, Persona 5 Strikers came from Sega, and Football Manager 2021, of course. 41.7 million full games for the fiscal year, up 46%. So again, just isolating their video game thing, that did very well.
Dude.
Again, not only their pachinko and resort revenue was down 51%
Atlas.
and 40% respectively.
Dude, Atlas, that was the other big thing. Their announcement about the future of SMT. That they finally get it. They even said it specifically about the next Persona. They want future SMT and Persona games to be day and date worldwide releases and be multi-platform. That was the big thing. Yeah. After finally seeing what that series can do with Persona 4 Gold, and they're probably like, wow, we are losing out on so much money. Persona 5 was so big. If Persona 6 is a worldwide release on like every platform possible, that thing is going to be like Dragon Quest levels of like numbers, like Final Fantasy numbers. It's going to be like, it could become the biggest JRPG series. It's like, I'm so happy they finally get this. Like, I'm not the biggest Persona or SMT fan, but I'm really happy when series that like they definitely are due their success, and they've kind of been like denied it a little bit, or there's so much left on the table. This is it. Like, Persona needs to get to like that final level. It's like right there, and this is gonna finally do it. And I think it's gonna help Shin Megami Tensei 5. They're aiming for that worldwide release for that, even though it's Switch only. But if that does very well, that could mean future SMT mainline games get bigger, because Persona is like viewed as like the more popular one, but SMT is also a very underappreciated one. And then there's all the different spin-offs. Yeah, like that whole franchise, like, probably deserves a lot more recognition than it gets.
Jones. We simply deny them that.
Oh.
Deny them that? Sorry.
Stop that.
Anime finds a way.
No.
Shin Megami Tensei 5 coming from Sega. Humankind also coming. Total War Warhammer 3, which should do well, and Lost Judgment, like we mentioned. But they expect their game sales to be down 9% to 37.9 million this year. This is what they're projecting, so we will see.
We will see.
Bandai Namco probably run away with the trophy again, but that's how all those companies are doing.
Bandai Namco has most anime.
Most anime wins, yep.
Fiscal years are fun. It's fun knowing what everybody's up to. And now, a word from our sponsors. We run a Patreon. It is tiring. We have a lot of work to do. So, man, HelloFresh is such an easy sponsor. It's such a thing. Like, when this just came up, it was like, my wife just has enthusiasm for cooking, which I love to see my wife enthusiastic about something, but I was like, imagine how much time we could save. Imagine how much brain power we waste on what actually we are cooking. And she is completely addicted to it, and it has made my life and her life, but mostly my life, so much better. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable, and that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Amanda tried to pull one over on me the other day, but she's like, how'd you like this HelloFresh meal? And I was like, you made this. And she's like, I did. Whereas she was comparing, she thought it was going to trick me by something she put a lot of time into, to think it could get to the level of HelloFresh. That's what she's up to. I'm not officially saying who makes a better meal. They both won.
Does Amanda listen to the podcast?
Not the whole thing. HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal. I'll specifically have her focus on the Patreon version of the podcast moving forward. HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in about 30 minutes or less. Try meals ready in 20 minutes or less, lightning prep recipes and quick breakfasts and lunches, perfect for your busy schedule. And as I mentioned, we are busy. HelloFresh's fresh ingredients are sourced directly from growers and delivered from the farm to your front door in under a week, contact-free, of course. They're always very nice when they show up. And I could not have a more direct emotional personal experience with the sponsor than I have with HelloFresh. And that includes the bidet that splashes me on my butt. Go to HelloFresh.com/12allies and use code 12allies for 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/12allies. Use that code 12allies for 12 free meals. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. A lot of us take care of our bodies, but in 2020 and 2021, it's been tough. We might also want to take care of our minds. There's a misunderstanding of what therapy is. It can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be sitting around talking about your feelings. A lot of people battle with their temper, or stress is about to kill them, or they have depression, anxiety, PTSD. The list goes on. If this is you, you can use therapy to get some tools to make life easier. As I mentioned, we're very busy. It's nice to take a moment, whether you just want to be introspective like I do and just breathe, hang out with my dog in my backyard and just try to calm down, whether you actually need to talk to somebody about these things. Sometimes just listening to your self-talk can be very productive. When everyone is struggling with something, there's no more shame. You don't have to tell everyone your personal business, but you can talk to a therapist about it privately. Don't want to officially say that everybody needs therapy because that is up to everybody to decide for themselves. But everybody
I would recommend
could use therapy.
Yeah,
it's not
I
a,
would say everyone
it's
could
not a
use
bad
therapy.
idea to try it.
I
Me?
love
Yeah,
therapy.
you. Give it a shot. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and which can be pricey, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really all about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Feels good. And Easy Allies listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/allies. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp, regular spelling, .com/allies. Go to BetterHelp.com/allies to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. A few decades ago, private citizens used to be largely that, private. What changed? The internet. This feels like the opening to A-Team. You know, it's like there's going to be some squad with special
Or Blade
abilities.
Runner.
Think about everything you've browsed, searched for, watched, or tweeted. Now imagine all of that data being crawled through, collected, and aggregated by third parties into a permanent public record. Your record! Having your private life exposed for others to see was once something only celebrities worried about. Or it was used to sell... What was it where they creeped us out at E3 where he was like, I was in a riot once. We were like, whoa, what was that game announcement? Was it Detroit Become Human? There was some game, Infamous Second Son maybe? There was some game where they talked about a crazy police state.
Oh.
Am I the only one to watch these press conferences? Come on, back me up.
I remember the VHS we
yeah.
got from Resident Evil 7, but...
Having your private life exposed for others to see was once something only celebrities worried about. But in an era where everyone is online, everyone is a public figure. To keep my data private when I go online, I turn to ExpressVPN. Did you know that there are hundreds of data brokers out there whose sole business is to buy and sell your data? The worst part is they don't have to tell you who they're selling it to or get your consent. One of these data points is your IP address. Data harvesters use your IP to uniquely identify you and your location. But with ExpressVPN, your connection gets rerouted through an encrypted server and your IP address is masked. So every time you turn it on, you give a random IP address shared by other ExpressVPN customers. That makes it more difficult for third parties to identify you and harvest your data. And the best part now is how easy ExpressVPN is to use. No matter what device you're on, phone, laptop, or smart TV, all you have to do is tap one button and get protected. So, if you believe that your data is your business, secure yourself with the #1 rated VPN on the market, expressvpn.com/allies, and get 3 extra months for free. That's expressvpn.com/allies. Go to expressvpn.com/allies to learn more. And if you are a patron of Easy Allies, thank you. The Video Game Hall of Fame. Yeah, I didn't expect a big reaction on that one. Should it be a big thing? Should we be like
I
don't know much about
We got the Hall of Greats.
We got the Hall of
Yeah, we
Greats,
got the
baby.
Hall
We got
of
the Hall-
Greats. Why aren't
We'll
we in
get
the
to-
news?
We'll get to the Hall of Greats. But I don't know.
We will?
Like, I'm not, I mean, I love rock, but I'm not so into rock that I like get upset about who is or is not in the Hall of Fame. I'm sure we can argue about that forever, but it's like I wonder if people that are really into rock, musicians and VJs, like, does the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame mean something? Is that like important? I don't know. How do we feel about Hall of Fames? Maybe even
It's probably
specifically
a
the
nice
video
honor
game
to
Hall of Fame.
receive,
Sports seems to have like the most revered concept for the
Right.
Hall of Fame. Like it's like the most prestigious in like the eyes of the public's perception.
And you get
They
like
have,
a Pete
the most
Rose
rigorous
situation where it's
process.
like Pete Rose is one of the best baseball
yeah.
players that ever lived, but he's never going to get in there because of his scandals. You know, his
like
betting
not
scandals.
getting in and like the
That's what we
like,
need.
The whole
We need the video game that
process.
got banned. It just like
There's stories around like this, even like the voting process where like Video Game Hall of Fame, it's like I guess it's just so new. You know, the industry is so young compared to other industries. You know, maybe in like 50
Sure.
years, the Video Game Hall of Fame will be a huge thing that like everyone will be writing about like which game is banned or whatever because it used illegal coding in it or something like that to gain an unfair advantage.
Well, but like, who gets into this? Is it just based on sales or what?
they have been doing this all the way since 2015.
Oh, so it's been 6 years.
Older than
It's
us
been
in this
yeah,
iteration
exactly.
of us.
Who are we to-
Younger
who are
than
we to
us.
joke.
Wholesale.
Yeah, we're only
You can check
Gen
them out at
Zers.
worldvideogamehallofFame.org. This is the Strong Museum, the Strong National
Strong Museum.
Museum
I've heard
of
about that.
Play in
Okay.
Rochester, New York. Blood is finally on track. They receive thousands of submissions for entry. Out of those, 3 games are voted on by the public. They're placed on one ballot, while the rest are chosen by members of the International Selection Advisory Committee. Why are you not
Keighley
on
that committee.
Damiani? Why aren't you on that? Yeah.
Is Jeff Keighley on it?
Yeah, why aren't we all on this?
Yeah, why aren't we
committee?
on it? And if Jeff Keighley's on it, I don't know if I trust this panel.
Which is
Wait, if
Whoa.
he's not on it or if
I'm
he
just
is
kidding.
on it?
Because
Which
Keighley's on
is-
every panel, man. Keighley's everywhere. If Keighley's
Keighley
not on a
runs
panel,
every panel. He's not on the
okay,
panel.
did Keighley select the panel then? No.
Boot
Keighley
somebody
sits on
off.
the throne.
Every year. It's made up of journalists and scholars familiar with the industry.
Okay.
What are they studying? I guess economists, probably. That would be the most scholarly pursuit.
What if it's like
to make
professors
sense of
at
this
like
industry.
universities, like USC, that teach like in their game
Yeah.
departments? Yeah.
We're scholarists.
Don't art professors like to say how video games aren't art?
No, now the new hot thing is to say that they are.
Well, that's the thing that pisses me off. Is now it's like you can go to college and learn video games. Like what?
Yeah, learn video games.
I had to learn video editing and kind of sneak in that way. Like just tag them. Off to video game school, mom. Bye. Like,
But yeah, can you see like who the people who selected are? Is it kind of like secretive? The voting committee.
Damiani, how much time do you think I spent on worldvideogamehallofFame.org?
No, is there
I
just a
told you
link?
the
Couple
URL.
hours?
You can go check it out right now, man.
I'm
focused
focusing
the
on
games.
listening and
I'm not focused
engaging.
on
I'm
the
not-
people.
I'm not
focused
going on the internet.
games. Okay.
Okay, it's okay.
Do you know what games
What
got
did you
in?
want to say about the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame?
like
Whatever.
What? Yeah. What is this segment?
Just
I'm
get
so
to the
confused.
damn. What is it?
So new games got inducted. This is probably
4
why
new
it's up
games
there.
have been inducted.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, all right.
To the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York's Video Game Hall of Fame.
Ooh.
I know one of them.
Which one do you know?
Oh, they have 2 panelists on here. Are gonna be thrilled. The GameCube's own Animal Crossing.
On the GameCube, the original. Which I'm assuming kind of in
Animal
our...
Forest.
Not the original, but
I mean,
the original
for
GameCube
here,
version, yes.
Yeah. If they had said Animal Forest, I would have been very impressed. I was like,
I mean, I think they have some cool stuff in that museum. Like, I would not be surprised.
And it kind of
if
has
they did.
that like Hall of Greats, like bendy rulesy thing where it's like, well, we say Animal Crossing GameCube, but like no other Animal Crossing is getting in now. This is Animal Crossing, It would be tougher to make that argument now for Hall of Greats if Animal Crossing is in there. You're like, yeah, but New Leaf, really? Like, no, Animal Crossing's already in there. Come on. It's only Zelda and Mario that get multiple versions in.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't true at all for Hall of Fame.
But it's nice to see Animal Crossing, especially up there with the likes of Microsoft Flight Simulator.
oh, nice.
Which would seem one. Again, there's been 7 years worth of inductees since they started in 2015, but I would thought might have squeezed in there earlier. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Shit,
Yeah.
dude.
Really?
I love
That's
those
awesome.
games as a
That's
kid.
unexpected, though.
That show. I just watched a really good video about the show.
Yeah,
the video
what's
game.
up
I think it
with
was
the
on
Carmen Sandiego brand in 2021?
Defunct TV, I think was the YouTube channel that it was on. Defunct Land, but
Love
yeah,
Defunct
dude,
Land.
I
Shout
loved
out.
that show. Yeah, and I was already a fan of Rockapella from Do It Acapella, the Spike Lee documentary on PBS. Grew up watching that. I've seen Rockapella live.
Nice.
Sick.
Dude,
Love Carmen.
they should make
Sandiego.
a battle royale Carmen Sandiego where you have to all run your character to the place on the map and they go to the capital of this country. And you can watch you can make fun of people who run to the wrong
Like,
country.
where's Zimbabwe? Go.
Yeah, and you have to like put a flag above you to say where you're from, so we're gonna be like, "Oh, you are the dumb
All the
country."
Americans don't know what's going on.
They don't know what anything is.
They all think Africa is a country.
Shout out to Lynn Figpen, who I just looked up the other day because she was on a Sesame Street episode. And Amanda's like, what do I know her from? And I'm like, Carmen Sandiego, but what is her name? She was the chief.
Wait, she.
Carmen
Oh, yeah, she
Sandiego.
was.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
Who passed a long time ago, but shout out.
Oh.
And also, there was another one.
Yeah, what's the fourth one?
StarCraft. A couple people played it.
Oh,
Sold
alright.
a couple copies.
Good picks.
Good picks.
Yeah,
How
those are all
many
pretty hot.
greats are in the Hall of Fame?
Ooh, good cue.
How many greats are in the Hall of Fame?
6.
Tetris is one. Has to be one.
Oh,
gotta
Damian's
be
going
in
through the
there.
list.
I'm trying to. Oh, no, I'm
Ian
looking
nailed
at
it, by the way.
Wait, I did?
Oh, you did? Nice.
6.
We're done. Yeah, we're done.
Home run. What are they, though? Name them. Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
Tetris
probably
one?
Tetris is one.
Tetris,
Tetris is one.
Mario.
What?
No.
No Mario?
No Mario?
There is a Mario.
Pac-Man.
It's not our Mario.
Oh, but
What
Pac-Man's
Mario?
not in the
What
Hall of
Mario
Greats.
games are in our Hall of Greats? Just curious. If you know.
It's
World.
3D. We don't have any of the. Oh, we have.
I thought World was in there.
The world
3?
probably wouldn't be in
Shit,
there.
what's in our Hall of Greats?
Super Mario Brothers 3 and 64. That's it.
3 probably wouldn't be
Okay.
in
Well,
there.
Paper
Hall of
Mario and Thousand
Greats.
Year Door, but I mean, come on.
On ours? Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
So they probably put
Ocarina of Time.
They
original
probably put
Mario.
the first one, yeah.
Yeah,
Ocarina
they
of Time
probably
is
put-
not in the Hall of Is not in the
That-
Hall of Fame.
Fame, yeah, it's
Yeah.
too new probably, or not
Tetris
yet.
is in there, though, yeah?
People who listen to this
Is
podcast are fans of Hall
Diablo?
of Greats
Is Diablo
are now like,
2 in there?
Nope.
Wait, is
Wow.
Tetris in there, Jones? In
So-
both?
All right. Yeah, Tetris is in both. Also
I'm like,
in both,
answer me.
among the 6. Doom, the original Doom.
Oh, shit.
is in both.
Yeah,
Okay.
easy.
Pokemon Red and Blue, they said red and green on their website?
That's
the-
Japanese.
That's
So
Yeah.
then why isn't
Oh,
Animal
that's what it
Forest
is.
in there? What is going on here? Maybe they don't like the N64 version of Animal Crossing.
World of
Maybe it
Warcraft,
really
which
was
is in
the
the Hall of
GameCube.
Greats, thanks to yours truly.
Oh,
Street
okay.
Fighter 2 and Final Fantasy 7. Those are the
Okay.
6 that it cross over.
Final
into
Fantasy
both.
7 is in there.
I can't believe I just
Before.
bullseyed
Yeah,
6.
that's nice.
So random. I did not know that already.
Out of Flight Simulator, StarCraft, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and Animal Crossing, which deserves it the most? StarCraft? If you could rank those, rank the significance.
Sorry,
my
it's Flight,
gosh.
Animal
That's-
Crossing.
You can only let one in
StarCraft, Flight
between those
Simulator,
4.
and what's the third,
Carmen
fourth one?
Sandiego.
Oh, Carmen
Carmen
Sandiego.
I mean, none of those would get into our Hall of Greats, probably.
Sadly, no.
StarCraft would have the best
I think
shot
they
at
could.
it, probably.
StarCraft, yeah, Animal Crossing close behind.
Animal Crossing's probably second.
I feel like
kinda
StarCraft.
StarCraft would be number 1, I think.
Yeah.
StarCraft probably.
This year's 12
But Animal Crossing would be nearly tied.
This year's 12 finalists included the Mattel handheld football with the little lines.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, do you know what I'm talking about, Damiani? Do you know what that is? That's a little, there's some movie that has it. There's some movie where some action movie where some like
is this like Tiger
robot's gotta
handheld
protect
stuff?
a kid, and then he's like the kid's
It's
got
like
it.
the
Before
Tiger
that,
stuff,
but
but
yeah.
it's Mattel.
Don't remember this.
They say Midway's Tron. I don't know if they mean Discs of Tron, but it's
Yo, Discs of Tron!
I don't know if they mean Discs of Tron.
No, they
or
mean
if
they mean the original Tron arcade cabinet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
that?
it's the first movie licensed arcade game to be considered for
That's
the
probably why.
Real
Hall
quick,
of Fame.
Discs of Tron is so good. I love that arcade game.
It was in the break room in the theater at my college down below. I was
Damn!
Nice.
82
random
used
pick,
to
just
have
did
it.
Not expecting. Maybe it's still there. I
82
don't know.
used to have it, and then they don't anymore.
Anyone
and I
who's
was
at
like,
Emerson
oh,
College, let me know if it's underneath the Majestic Theater, if it's still there. In plain vanilla Call of Duty 1 made it in there. So no
Is
other-
Counter Strike in there? I'd be surprised if it's not.
nay, because it's not one of the 6 that's in both.
Mm-hmm.
We have to keep talking about Apple versus Epic v Apple. And again, I'm gonna break it up into 2 things. We're gonna start off with the silly bits, and then we're gonna talk about the interesting conversation starters. How long that conversation is, I do not know, and I apologize that I cannot take this seriously. Like there are things we can learn, there are conversations that need to be had, but like people coming in to be like, yes, I want that interesting angle. Blood, you sell this every week like this is gonna be a really hot, difficult topic for me to cover. You're like, there's been a lot of information out there. It's like I'm only looking for goofy stuff. That's it. I'm only looking for the absurdity of this court case and things that we would not have known had not it been for the fact that Epic wanted to sue Apple super, super bad. Sony, Nintendo, Roblox, PayPal, Spotify, and Samsung, along with Epic and Apple, all requested for some of the information coming out of the trial to be sealed. Which, like, when do we ever get power as consumers? This is just like, ha ha ha, you know, they're all, I love Roblox being like, whoa, what are they talking about? Like,
Yeah.
what did we email to
out of
Epic?
this.
Like, what? So even when you say no to something, even if somebody's like, hey, you want to be in my podcast? And you're like, no, you be careful. It's like, it's official correspondence you're having with that brand.
I mean, it's just to be released to the public, though. Like, they still use them in court.
Of course. This is just us finding out about which the judge said.
Right, but the whole court case is being essentially broadcast, so that's why. So I'm not exactly sure how that mechanism works.
Nope.
It's probably because the documents are made available to both defense and the both sides, so they can review them, and then they can make further arguments.
Discovery.
Yeah, it's the part. Yeah, discovery. I would imagine.
The judge said, "quote The bell has already been rung."
Oh, for Sony.
For Sony, yeah.
I like that.
Sorry.
The bell has already been rung.
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid that bell's already been rung.
During Apple's cross-examination of Steve Allison, VP and General Manager of the Epic Games Store, the questioning lawyer said, in regards to the store's top 20 page, if you go to view more, it says top 20. I don't know if you know this, but there's actually 25 under the top 20.
Brutal.
That is Epic getting roasted by Apple via their lawyers. Hey, write in that there's 25 or 20. I don't know if you noticed it. Yeah, thank you.
This Dog and Pony show.
There's 25. It's so good. I want this Netflix miniseries so bad when they're done.
But make it like a hardcore comedy.
It's both.
Yeah.
Steve Allison also had to distance Epic from porn games available on Itch.io. They like really tried to get. They were like, wait, but Steve Allison, you said you don't want to be involved in porn, but if you've been to Itch.io, and it's like Itch.io isn't Apple. We are hosting that marketplace. If you buy something,
Epic.
Epic is hosting the Itch.io marketplace. If you go into Itch.io, you have to follow their guidelines. You have to follow all of their lawyer speak. And it's like, I don't know, man.
Epic hosts Itch.io?
Yes, you can get to Itch.io through Epic.
Oh.
Yeah,
right.
it's pretty recent actually.
But they're not the host server for the Itch.io website.
No.
They just, you can access it through.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Which I wonder how many people like found out Itch.io is even a thing through Epic. I wonder how well that's working.
I
out for
love
them.
Itch.io.
Itch.io's great. A lot of porn on there though.
Buy my games. Buy my games on
Good
Itch.io.
for porn. Good for Ian Games.
They're not porn.
Good porn.
Sorry.
So here are the 2 interesting talking points. Epic marketing, I mean, obviously there are so many more, but these are the 2 I want to talk about. Epic marketing director Matthew Weisinger was asked what platform represented the biggest growth potential for Fortnite. He answered mobile, which I mentioned earlier. He went on, in this quote, I mentioned on Friday, but we've basically reached full penetration on console, and mobile offers the biggest growth opportunity. Everybody has a mobile device, and they have it on them all the time. Not everybody has a console, and not everybody has a gaming PC. iOS is 10% to Fortnite's 30 million daily active users. Not a quote. That's just what we learned from that. Blood, have 10%. We achieved full penetration anywhere?
Certainly not.
No? Is there any...
Yeah, I don't
How
think
big are we
so.
on mobile? How much are we penetrating mobile right now in ECLS? Obviously, I'm 5 years old. Obviously, I love this quote because he says Fortnite is achieving full penetration on console, which is a bummer.
A 12-year-old, but yeah.
Which is a bummer. Yeah. Considering how much consoles are getting penetrated by Fortnite, it's a bummer to me to hear Epic saying that they got nowhere to go. You know, they're like, what you're seeing, that's it.
Gotta include that word market before penetration, man. They teach that in college.
Yeah.
But
full penetration.
So unless we have a dedicated mobile section of the Easy Allies podcast, we're missing out on a lot of the direction. You know,
yeah, we are.
Where these companies want to take things.
We got to build an app.
Not exactly, because as much as people use mobile, they don't want to hear about mobile that much.
Yeah,
probably.
They just want it to be a thing.
We need to be on Roblox.
We got to get the Easy Allies podcast into Roblox and Minecraft.
Yes.
Yeah.
But all these,
and Fortnite while we're at it.
I wonder, like, I'd be curious if there was somebody could chart the critical assessment of a game in terms of its audience. These like huge, you know, big like Genshin Impact and Pokemon Go and stuff like that. Like, how much their users actually watch content that's like, hey, we like this or didn't like this, or whether like I just want to watch people playing it. Done. Literally, like I want to play it, watch people playing it. I don't care what people think about it. I got my game. I'm good.
Guides. That's the other
guides.
The thing that you could make if you're gonna do any kind of content, but.
But how much can you penetrate with guides? I don't know. See, that's the thing. So I just keep coming back.
10 or 15%. But that's just the tip, you know.
I like it.
Damn it, Jones.
Proud of you, Ian. On a sheet labeled Individual Tactics, dated September 2020, we learned that Epic, so this is Epic being like, tactics. And just not thinking for a second that I was going to be reading this. I'm so sorry that I'm reading your note that you did not intend for me to read. They offered PlayStation $200 million for 4 to 6 exclusive titles. So on the Epic Game Store they were like, hey, if PlayStation games come to PC, we want that exclusivity. No word on if it worked. They labeled maybe MG. They put MG on there. Everyone, including Games Industry Up, is assuming that means minimum guarantee, which means that Sony would get the $200 million regardless of how well the Sony games did. 2 PlayStation exclusive have released on the Epic Game Store so far. Anyone?
Death Stranding.
Oh, yeah,
Death Stranding's on Steam.
Yeah. PlayStation exclusives on Epic. They are not like super memorable games. One of them I'm not really even familiar with that much. One I played, it was a group stream. I played it very poorly.
Pathless?
Predator Hunting Grounds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I played Pathless brilliantly.
So, okay, that's
sorry,
not at all what I was thinking. I thought you were talking about like PlayStation published games.
That's what they were talking about. I would imagine when they wrote down their individual tactics.
Right.
But Ready Set Heroes in 2019 and Predator Hunting Grounds is all they've been able to scrounge up. Whether that was due to this tactics sheet or not, I don't know.
That ain't
that sounds like
worth
a totally different thing to me, but yeah, that's weird. Those got associated.
You're thinking of like, well, if it worked, Horizon and Days Gone and
Last of
Us would be on
something
and
like
be
that,
going to Epic. Yeah.
But it's, you know, last week we talked a lot about these deals that did go through, you know, how Sony signed up for crossplay, a lot of these things that, you know, showing how much money Epic exactly is making on what and what they're willing to spend it on. Kind of fun also hearing about Epic just chucking money at something and then people swat it away. So it's like, get out of here. 200 mil for Last of Us Part 2? Get out of here. 200 mil for Days Gone? Hey, we don't get a Days Gone 2, but at least Days Gone is worth more than 200 mil for exclusivity.
Destruction All-Stars was kind of fun. That just kind of fell off, didn't it?
It was a good group stream.
I mean,
great group stream.
It's fun for an hour.
At the time, it was
2 hours.
At the time that they did this, Epic, at the time of the individual tactics, Epic was quote unquote opening conversations with Microsoft. Microsoft, according to Epic, was quote against what we're doing and quote are effectively bidding against us for content, which makes sense. I mean, they were kind of recognized them, but they were like, well, we're gonna every game that comes out, we're gonna be hunting for, is it on Game Pass, is it exclusive, you know, so It's kind of funny to, is the enemy of my enemy my enemy? I kind of love when these deals get made.
It's like worth trying.
Same thing with crossplay. And
what we're doing.
I don't know if you heard this, Damiani, but this is fun. As far as Nintendo goes, Epic noted that it would be a quote. Do you know the quote?
No, but go ahead. I heard something about this.
Moonshot.
Yeah.
Nintendo's the moonshot.
The moonshot.
And corporate history. They couldn't tell this, just by themselves. Corporate history says this is not starter. They're like, no. Which I imagine it in like a 1970s detective drama where they go to pick up the phone and then the corporate history people come in and they put their finger on it. What? I was just about to call Nintendo. Yeah. It's a non-starter.
It's a non-starter. Nintendo doesn't go to bed with anybody.
It's true. Sony, however, we don't know. Well, we have yet to be seen. And again, this was all when they wrote down the individual tactics. They said,
penetrate Sony.
We're going to do this. This is the penetration we're about to do. Whether all that penetration happens.
What's the VCD on that?
Yeah. With the right value creation dynamics, we can lubricate Sony for full penetration.
Save that stuff for the sponsor segment. That's sponsor talk.
What have you done, Jones?
Hey, I'm done with this segment. It's up to you how long we carry this on.
We better be. Bail us out.
Okay, all right.
Bail us out, Jones.
Next.
Bloodworth, look at Bloodworth's face. He's not ready to hear this kind of talk.
Also this week, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance is now available on current-gen consoles. When I say Dark Alliance, I don't mean Dark Alliance. I mean Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, the old one.
Yeah.
You just go get it. You can buy it on your console of choice.
For $30.
For $30, which is a little overpriced if you ask Ben Moore and others. Damiani mentioned it, but Sega confirmed future Yakuza games, not Rakuza games, although there's a franchise. Although there's a franchise.
That's the fusion when they come back together.
Rakuza.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade will be exclusive to PS5 for at least 6 months, something around there. Sniper Ghost Warriors Contracts 2 delayed on PlayStation 5 and only PlayStation 5 for quote unforeseen technical issues.
Damn haptics.
It's got to be something so stupid, but I mean, it's almost juicy. It's like, ooh.
Yeah.
I can play that on Xbox Series X and Xbox One right now, but not a PlayStation 5. PS4 version works fine. Sniper Go. The next gen version, unforeseen technical issues. The black PS5 DualSense, another unforeseen technical PS5 issue that you had to deal with. You had to play in the white one for a while, and a red one comes out next month.
Got those both on pre-order, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I knew you would.
buy 2 of them. Damn it.
Dude,
hey, wait. It's the Easy Allies colors now. Red, black, and white.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Although
it's interesting, in the blog, like they had this like designer thing where there's like, and both controllers have a blue hue to them. And even the original one had a blue hue, and I'm like, what kind of color expert do you have to be to spot a blue hue in any of these controllers?
I guess it is a slightly cool white.
Hey, just having moved into a new house, I actually have spoken to several color experts, so they're out there. I had someone come in the house that kind of did some like mutant ability stuff to us, where they were like, I like the blue cup, and we're like, blue cup? This isn't a blue. It is. It's like it's creepy. It's creepy.
They changed it.
Color people.
It was like those people with like. What's it called? Tetrachromia or whatever, where they can see like a million colors that we can't.
They're like those crabs.
People can't.
They can see like 256 million. Yeah. It's like Damiani with hit detection. They just have some kind of sense that like the rest of us don't.
Or like me for smelling dead mice.
EA Play Live will be on July 22nd. Around E3.
This is mean, but I'm so secretly happy. It's like so far away. It's
month and a half
I don't have to care about it because
I'll
be bye.
Not there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you really don't do anything interesting anyway, so bye.
This reminds me of like when quarterbacks are about to get tackled and they just you're like, what? That's not a pass. What is that? Like.
Oh, it's like the youngest kid getting ignored, so it's like, I'm going to go put on my own show over here, and no one's going to come watch.
Toys over here.
The only thing that makes me nervous about is it just shows that things, could still be more spread out this summer than we want.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So I don't want to be doing E3 every week for 2 months.
It's going to be a weird summer just like last, no matter what. We're getting a new Fatal Frame. Pachinko slot machine.
Yeah. There was.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts, Joe. Does Konami make Fatal Frame?
No. A movie
Nintendo's
director
actually been publishing.
is claiming interesting. I could dive in on this one. I'd be more curious to find out if anything happens to this legally after the fact. But a movie director is claiming that he created a monster in Resident Evil Village that probably shouldn't go into detail in case you haven't really gotten to it yet.
There are a few actually. I saw a thing that lined up a few of them. The one looks pretty damn close.
Mm-hmm.
The others are like kind of. I'm like, yeah, okay, but like slapping blades instead of arms.
It's
like,
tough
that's
with
not,
horror
That's not
when stuff
that
is so out of
crazy,
control.
but yeah, some of them it's just like, yeah, that's the same idea.
Yeah.
I believe
metallic
they probably
gore has
just
been
had
around
the
for like
same
40
idea.
years in film, so it's kind of hard to.
They probably just
narrow it
had the
down,
same
but-
idea.
The thing-
It's
I mean, I was
like-
thinking
if they
like
win,
the
it'd be fun to get
board
into it.
for half the stuff.
Compare
that
them.
part.
Oh, sure. But the thing that's tricky to me with this stuff is like, okay, because he's like upset that they didn't credit him or whatever, etc. But it's like, even if they did take inspiration from that film that I'd never heard of before now,
yeah, this is good for this dude because now
like
I'm
how
this
much
movie.
does like they don't need to credit him for like using similar ideas. Like it goes back to like the whole like Universal versus Nintendo over Donkey Kong, right? Like, oh well, it's like it's a similar concept, but it's differentiated enough that it's not
you can't
legally
copyright
the same thing.
ideas. You can only copyright the specific expression of an idea.
Yeah, if it's legally distinct, you're. Yep.
Yeah, and like even looking at the main one, that's like the most likely. It's like I see differences right off the bat.
Yeah, one of them's got arms.
One of them clearly has arms.
Yep.
A Dragon Quest 35th anniversary live stream is announced May 27th.
But
And,
what's
that's
the
interesting,
big
yeah.
deal about it?
Supposedly going to announce the next Dragon Quest game, right?
It's the first time in history it's ever going to be in English.
Oh. I love that
What, the
Dragon Quest now.
announcement?
Yeah, like the
the
broadcast. Yeah.
Oh.
And hot off the presses, Rambo and John McClane are coming to Call of Duty. I'm assuming John McClane. They didn't say specifically John McClane, but they said Die Hard. They were like capital D, capital
did they?
H. Capital D, capital H in the tweet. I was
Is that like
okay.
when they say
They're
Metroid?
like some heroes
Metroid's
die
coming to mean
hard,
Samus.
other heroes, blah blah blah, and then they had Rambo in the front. So it's
Okay,
like,
I'd only
and it's
seen
called
the
the
Rambo
80s
tweet.
action movie bundle. So I was like, okay,
But there was a leak before
they're
it.
saying
so that's-
80s action, and then say
What if
Die
it's
Hard,
just-
and don't put John
So-
McClane in. That'll be interesting.
What if
but-
it's just the cop, Carl Winslow or whatever his name?
Hell yeah, that'd be
Oh.
great. Welcome to the party, pal. That'd be awesome.
What is his name in that?
Oh no, I can't. I was
'Cause
just
he's
gonna
in
look it up,
2
and it's
as
like,
well.
I can't look it because.
Yeah,
Damn.
I can look it up for you.
No, don't look it up for me because I should know. He says it like a billion times.
Oh,
in the
you're
movie.
right. You're right. Some heroes die hard, others draw
What is-
first blood.
But I
Totally.
mean, I know what his thing was. He shot a.
No, it's not Carl. Is
He shot a kid or whatever. So like or
Oh,
something.
okay, yep, I remember.
Is it Carl?
Yeah.
What is it?
Carl is the other character. It's Sergeant Al Powell.
Al.
Powell, Sergeant Powell. Yeah.
Damn it. I
Yeah.
failed. Boy, I'm not upset. I'm not happy.
Yeah,
about
But
that.
yeah,
Right.
I'm not happy
so
about
the
that.
image shows Rambo in a jungle, and then it has like a slash, and on the left it shows like the tower with a bunch of
Nakatomi
people.
Plaza?
Tony
Yeah.
Plaza. Let's go.
Which you can see if you drive down Olympic. I see it all the time.
Yeah, you see it all
And
the
every time I
time.
point it out to Sophia, and she's so tired of hearing about
I really want to see if that 7-Eleven. I've always been see if I can triangulate that 7-Eleven, if that market's still there that he buys the Twinkies at. Because he walks
Yeah.
out and looks at Nakatomi, and it's like, oh, I wonder what street that is.
it. It'd have to be down like Wilshire?
There has to be a 7-Eleven.
Let's pause the podcast and figure it out right now.
Let's figure it out.
No, let's do Love and Respect.
Okay.
Love and respect.
From Juan Roland Jr. Need some help. Need help understanding the phrase Metroidvania. I personally haven't played any Castlevania games, and I understand I should correct this heinous act at some point, but I've played a lot of Metroid games, and I love them. When I look at Castlevania games, I see the side-scrolling exploration, boss fights, and some map exploration, but doesn't Metroid have the same thing? Your incredible insight is most appreciated. Amor y respeto. So an interesting angle to the question, other than just doing the service of explaining it. What does Castlevania bring to it?
I mean,
Okay,
think
so
that
I
Metroid
think
can't
they're
do by
this is a
themselves.
this is a morphing of the term as time has gone on. So basically, Metroidvania originally was essentially saying that like these Castlevania games are being in the style of Metroid games, and then it just became like a way to describe any games that did what both of those two series had done after Castlevania had done it so many other times in a row.
Yeah.
That it became part of Castlevania.
Well, it hasn't done anything since. Like, other than Lords of Shadow 1 and 2, there's no other Castlevania in recent memory to call upon, that, like, so it is
They
very,
both just-
it's very much a
they
part of
both
Castlevania's
just did
identity
it.
now. Yeah.
They both just did it early enough that it became they're the same.
Yeah, well, particularly if you look at the way the map, like UI was between Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night, like it feels like they just essentially like did the same kind of interface. But yeah, with the upgrades and all of that kind of thing, it's really curious how they went in that direction, and then it worked, and so they kept going.
I met this lady one time who had this tattoo on her forearm, and it looked so familiar. I was like, "What's your tattoo?" And she was like, she held it out, and I was like, "That looks so familiar. It's so cool, And then it turned out to be the entire Super Metroid map.
Nice.
And I was like, you are the coolest person who ever lived. It's awesome.
But yeah, so I'd say rather than thinking of it in terms of, oh, what did Metroid bring to it and what did Castlevania bring to it, I'd say it's more of what do Metroid and Castlevania do the same.
Yeah.
Because Castlevania does things that Metroid doesn't even attempt, like with all like the weapon drops and RPG elements and things like that. Yeah.
But I also don't think that's what the term is even. Yeah, as you said, is not even applying to. I think it's more of a design. I think when you say Metroidvania, it's strictly from a design standpoint. It's the design and how you progress through the game.
Yeah, like getting items that let you go back and access new areas, even though you passed them.
I would say more recent
a continuous
stuff, like
world map. Yeah.
Ori probably leans more on the Metroid part of it than the Castlevania. Like their RPG trappings of the six, Symphony of the Night, and then the two trilogies.
It was breaking away from like you're in a level, you go through that level. That's the only level you see. You need to beat that level to advance. It's like you can peek into another level. Like, you can go left or right, and you can peek into these levels, but you can only go so far before you're met with something that says you can't go any further. That's whether it's an item or something else. I mean, early games it's items. It has since evolved, but I mean that's all it really is. And now you must go back and find a thing to move forward. It was just challenging the linear progression of like side scrollers and like what side scrollers had been doing forever at that point.
The means of exploration.
Anyone who
is the Castlevania
has played a lot of Metroid and hasn't played a lot of Castlevania, or hasn't played any Castlevania, specifically Symphony of the Night for the DS and the Game Boy Advance, the other ones were on, has missed the joy, the dopamine rush of smacking something with a sword and leveling up, and the game freezes. It's like, you leveled up. That is the best. It's one of my favorite level ups, midair, just go, leveled up. Because you never, like, when you play Symphony, do you ever, like, track, like, how much XP you need? Like, every level's like, oh, cool.
No.
It's never like, I made
time.
it, like, yeah.
Right.
It's always a good rush. And a good crew. These three panelists, I think, are an excellent crew to talk about Metroidvanias. These are kind of our, shout out to Ben and Brad, and, who
Brad
also play
for
this
sure,
stuff. Huber screams Hollow Knight every week or so. From Happy Gaming, has a game ever been ruined for you because of the community or memes surrounding it? I know we can answer that now, but let me finish. Most recently, I'm of course referring to the internet explosion of a certain character in RE8 being made into a dominatrix step-on-my-face mommy meme, which has become ubiquitous to the game's marketing and online presence of itself. Let's all just forget about the fact that this is a game in a spooky village and castle with scary werewolves and foreboding torture dungeons. Everyone shut up. The internet wants the tall lady to step on him. And that's not even the first time Resident Evil has had this happen. Just Google Resident Evil 6 logo and see how many results show up before there's one involving a giraffe. In another example, Bowsette became an internet sensation overnight and likely became more popular than the game they were derived from. To me, at least, these sorts of things can be fun in a vacuum. However, when they explode to the degree that they overshadow the rest of the game with their proliferation, they can ruin my perception or enjoyment of something that I haven't seen it when I haven't even started it yet. Maybe the developers will slide a little nod in there, in turn what was once a fun bit of snark into a reality that can't be undone. I think it makes me think of Mortal Kombat that's done that a lot in its history. In the words of Cliff Bleszinski on his thoughts on the RE8 hubbub, quote, "I'm looking forward to that game, but I feel like it's kind of being memed out of existence before even coming out," to which he was politely asked to just let people enjoy the hot vampire. Am I wrong for wanting to enjoy a game on its own merits? Am I too sensitive to what feels like an inescapable internet hive mind that can't take anything seriously without turning it into satire? Has this ever happened to you, where your enjoyment of a game has been altered by outside influences? I mean, the meme nature, I think, is the most interesting part of this question.
I mean, for me, like, for me personally, the positive stuff, like Lady D and stuff, like, that's never impacted a game in a negative way for me. Like, if people are having fun and, like, enjoying a thing and making a fun thing out of it, like, that doesn't, you don't need to take it so seriously that can ruin it for you. I mean, for me, the things that ruin games are the other way around, where, like, people are so, like, pushy or wackadoo about, like, their defense or constant recommendation of a game that it turns me off to it,
Yeah.
More so.
I don't think it ever crosses the line. In this specific instance, it didn't cross the line to becoming annoying. I think it was like, it was fun to see. It was mostly positive that came out of it, and people just having a good time. And I don't think it took anything away from the game for me. Like, it was like not even in like my thoughts when I played the game.
Yeah,
but I mean, I understand it's different for everybody. I'm trying to think of a game where it was adverse, like meme culture. I'm struggling at the moment. I can tell you something I had no interest in, and I will never be interested in, because the meme culture and the fan culture around it was so annoying, and it was more in person annoying than just online annoying. Was Homestuck or whatever the heck it was called? Like, I don't know enough about it. It was just these fans with these horns or whatever, that like kind of like gothic horn creature things, and it was wildly popular on the internet. But any convention you go to, they would like just be almost borderline harassers, like in terms of like just being so large and kind of like disruptive and like.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know.
You have the internet right in front of you. You could.
I'm not sure I should.
I mean, it's not inappropriate or anything like that. It's like a webcomic series, and like it might actually be really freaking good. But it's just like
Homestar?
No, not Homestar Runner. It's
break my heart if that community was
I was like,
picking on
wait,
people.
Are the Homestar Runner people weird?
Here. Homestuck.
I don't know if Homestar's got the clout.
It's called it's Homestuck. Homestuck is a webkit comic written, illustrated, animated by American author and artist Andrew Hussey. But yeah, there's like some characters from this that people used to always cosplay, and it seemed like cool. Like, cosplay communities are awesome. Like, showing your enthusiasm is awesome, but they get so rowdy and rambunctious and like cause issues at conventions that they were getting in trouble. That like I was like, I have no interest in this series now because you've been so off-putting to me. But also, to your point, Ian, when gatekeeping or communities get a little pushy and like those memes reinforce that kind of more like toxic view, that can get really annoying. Like what we went through, a little bit with Star Wars with the films recently, the sequel trilogy, or in any like of the geek communities when that happens, where people are like, oh, if you're not this, you're not a real fan, like that, and then like people make memes around that, like, you didn't know this, haha. It's like that. Especially when you're being serious, like gets so. That's such a turnoff. I just trying to struggle to remember that happened in the game series, honestly, to that extent when it was so bad.
The one that comes to mind is like Nier Automata. I'm like, I got every ending. Leave me alone. Like, I played it. Shut up.
I've dodged games before because I've been like, I don't really know if I like the discourse around this, but I can't think of like a game I really wanted to play that I was like, well, I'm not playing it now, or something that I was playing and enjoying, but was like, people are being weird about it.
And also, like with Resident Evil specifically, like Lady Dimitrescu, like they Rick and Morty.
There you go. That's one.
But like that's one. That's yeah. But like Resident Evil's always had like a little bit of that thirst. It's always been kind of a sexy franchise. I feel like
I can't blame any PR for not just completely leaping on that bandwagon and being like, oh my god, we did it. Because any game that you're making, even if you're a big company like Capcom with a franchise like Resident Evil, there's no guarantee that anybody's going to care. And that doesn't necessarily mean like your game's not going to get sales or they're going to be speaking about it negatively, but it's just like you can see what the games are that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
And some games like League of Legends are just always going to be huge, but like other games need to like own the year. They need to come in and be the thing that everybody's talking about. So like whatever it takes, whether it's like,
but I don't
unless it's like executives harassing people like that you don't want, but any kind of weird direction they can take your branding, if it's positive and it's they were infatuated with this woman.
Well, and to address the second part about like developers then changing the product to include the meme or whatever, like I don't see any evidence of that in Resident Evil 8 anyway.
Oh yeah.
Like they just had that game and then discovered that everyone loved Lady D, so they were like, all right, like go for it.
I saw their we had a Twitter bet. They leaned into it. The bet in question, the tweet in question,
but not
was
in
them
game.
Being like, look at that ass.
That's social media. I mean, that's their
but
job.
Not in game.
That's
that's
good
absolutely
social
fair
media.
game.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head where, something like that ruined like my, because I think the way that it's coming across to me is it's like, you just see this character and now you can't take them seriously, right? You see her in the game and she's just a big joke, and I can't think of anything like that.
Quiet, this
Oh,
happened
sure.
to me a little bit, where just like, because Kojima was like, you'll regret your words and deeds.
Right.
I kept waiting to regret my words and deeds, and then the whole game I was just like, nah, dude, I think you're just thirsty for this chick.
I was like, was he just like messing with me now? And like,
Yeah, I was
this
just like,
this is like
well,
some
how much is
sick
part of this?
joke? I was like, okay.
Yeah.
this-
So maybe that one did a little. Yeah.
Nah.
Totally. Bowsette's not a real character though, right?
That's the
just
thing.
fan
So
art.
that's the thing with Bowsette is like, cause yeah, it was the Peach Crown thing, and it was just like I think it was like fans trying to be creative there because they went with like a bunch of different characters. Like, what happens if it lands on different characters? Did they change it? It was like it was more like ingenious, I think, and some of it started to spew into like questionable territory. But for the most part, it started off as like a kind of funny, wholesome thing about what if this happened. It was like
Bowsette would be a fox. I'm telling you.
yeah.
I think that's pretty much true across Nintendo, is that the wholesome content and the unwholesome content are close. they're it's one click away. it's how long do you want to spend on the internet, basically, is the only thing standing between you
one too many, one too far.
and some Nintendo character that it will be scarred forever. Or your view of that.
That recent SNL skit.
Yeah, didn't need that. Thanks.
I haven't watched a
I
single
haven't
one
either.
of those Elon
I
Musk
just heard what
things.
involved, and I was like, never mind.
Elon Musk is kind of a douchebag.
Yeah. Who said about Big Juice than Wario? It's hard to tell. Who's the? Wario being in charge of Tesla would be interesting. From Ebflow, Konnichiwa allies. I'm currently in the midst of listening to the Resident Evil 8 spoiler mode, and conversations about the easy breeziness of the puzzles and extremely manageable inventory space have both cropped up. My question is there a place for a more classic RE experience out of 1, 2, and 3 in today's gaming landscape? The puzzles in those games, while not mind-numbingly hard, were a little bit more obtuse and required more thought, or at least foresight, as you had to compromise between carrying key items you weren't sure you would need quite yet, or valuable healing and offensive options for the road ahead. Understandably, this kind of ambiguity can lead to player frustration and could sour the experience for some. But for the people this clicks with, those aha moments that are much sweeter, and the tension of what could be a survival horror game is that much more palpable. Is this kind of game design a relic of the past, or should developers feel encouraged to allow the player to get lost and make tough calls like these more often? Especially in an age where a quick Google search, even on day one, all it takes to figure out something if you're truly stuck. Is there even such a thing as making puzzles and inventory management too tough? I thought the balancing of craftable resources in RE8 was a wonderful callback to that sort of critical decision-making, and would have loved to see a bit more of that throughout other aspects of the game myself. Love and respect, Ebflow. Obviously not getting into spoilers or anything, specifically talking about management and whether that's something we still want to do in 2021. Do we want to run back to the item box?
I think for Village, they were erring on the side of flow and like keeping the game moving. And so I think that they didn't want to bog it down and risk anyone getting stuck at the risk of losing the people who like more classic puzzle stuff. I said this in the spoiler mode, but I would love to see Resident Evil do what Silent Hill has done in the past, which has Silent Hill 3 has this, for example, like a gameplay difficulty and a puzzle difficulty setting. So if you like hard puzzles, you can say like, give me the hard puzzles, which basically just like make the poem more obscure or whatever the clue is, you know.
So yeah, the last Tomb Raider game did that thing where I forget what the different things were, but like combat and exploration and puzzles were like separate difficulty settings that you could do. So I
love that.
Yeah, there's that. The other thing I was wondering was because I didn't really play them. The Revelations games, how were they in terms of like classic puzzles and that kind of thing?
Yeah, a little more classic feeling than 8 certainly, and certainly 7. Yeah, Revelations feels kind of like a throwback a little bit in that way. Mm-hmm. I like Revelations 2 a lot. I haven't played 1.
It's been so long since I played those games.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I do remember having to like push some stuff.
Yeah, like the push stuff is fine. Like even like, because I replay RE4 a lot. Like even RE4 has it's just like the type of puzzles what they do. Like the ones where like the hanging painting one where you have to like flip them so a certain amount of people are hanging. It's like it's straightforward. It's like make it so 6 people are dead or stuff. Like that stuff's always like fine. I think it's you said, Ian, it's pacing and spacing of them. When you go a long stretch without like any kind of real puzzle, and then it hits you with one, and then that's it, and then you go for a while without it, I don't like that. I would like a game to prepare me in the first hour. This is pretty much what you can expect. You can add new layers onto it, but like don't throw something significantly, radically different that shifts the pacing of the game. And because to me it gets erratic, because I don't want to hit that roadblock. Like I'm moving along at a nice pace. I'm really enjoying my progress. I don't want to like all of a sudden something new is thrown at me that like pumps those brakes. I'm like, oh no, I'm not liking this. Whereas like RE2 and RE3 Remake, from the very get-go, you're dealing with inventory management. The game, it's about that, and like you're trained from the very beginning, you're gonna have to deal with this. Same with RE7. For whatever reason, RE2, because it's also based on the older ones, I was more accepting of that. It feels fine when it's like, it's not so much. It is a bit of a puzzle. It's like, oh, you got to come back here with the right things because you don't have the right thing right now and you don't have enough space, so I got to make your way back. But it crosses the line when it's like such a confusing layout on top of that like you start getting lost. Like Heisenberg's part, was like, that was where it's almost starting to cross the line. But I concede I was very tired and I just got my second COVID shot. Finishing that part and replaying it, it's much more smooth. So like I don't think 8 ever really suffered from that problem. It was just a me problem at one part.
Well, and something that Resident Evil does maybe better than like Silent Hill and stuff that I really appreciate is a good mix. Like you said, the spacing of the puzzles is really interesting, but Resident Evil does a really cool thing where they like kind of the looming threat of a puzzle is over your head for a while sometimes. Like in 7, a great example is like, how do you get the shotgun? Like, you have to deal with that for a long time. And like in almost all of them, there's some statue you got to put something on. And you see the statue or you see the painting you have to do something to, but you're missing the crest you have to put in there, And like that's an ongoing thing that you're considering. And in the older games, you have to leave space for that in your inventory and then go back there. In this one, the key items are on their own thing, so it's less of a threat.
I like the Resident Evil usually does it the best when you need those items to progress. So like you're going the right way when you're getting those things. Like that's how it informs it, and I love that. And it does that really well at times, and I think that's what makes a stronger Resident Evil game. But I also equally like when they do put some of that puzzle stuff behind optional stuff as well. So like it keeps you guessing, like, oh, that was even required to beat this part. Oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, like the little pinball ones aren't required at all. Yeah. And those are fun because you can't cheat those on a way back in. Like there's some puzzles like the passwords stay the same and everything, so you're just like, I just run up to the wall and just 05, 04, whatever. And but those things, you got to get good at those. You got to remember, like, all right, the ball drops down to this thing, and then I got to wind it around. So it's kind of fun, even on like the 8th playthrough. You're like, oh no, the castle one, damn, money. Or the one, the factory one. That one was tricky.
That was the only one I didn't find the ball for.
Time for bets. Next week's bet, Days Gone, launches on PC on May 18th. When we record the podcast on May 20th, how many positive reviews will it have on Steam? How many, now what ranking will it be at, overwhelmingly or very or whatever? Just how many of those reviews will be positive of its Steam reviews? Ian.
3,312.
Okay. Damiani.
1,500.
Bloodworth.
4,221.
Oh.
Ooh, I almost put 4,000 and I changed.
You got the high. I feel good about that in case it blows up. I just did 4,000, so.
Ooh, feels good. All right, we got the low locked in.
Okay. This week's bet, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Wrath of the Druids, launched this past week. I want to know how long that first cutscene was, and I thought it was going to be when I got to the new area. And I feel comfortable in my selection of this, but two things I was nervous about, like what is the first cutscene? Is it going to be hard to discern? Am I going to be able to talk in this cutscene? So that's going to be kind of tricky. It's like, well, how long is it until they give me the option? And then it's really pausing it. Do we want to consider stuff? I went to a person at the dock in my homestead. They talked for a while. This was clearly a cutscene, and it was the beginning of the thing. And after it, I actually didn't go to Ireland yet. I had to do some other stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, this is clearly the beginning of the DLC. I don't want to count just randomly the one where I get there. And it was definitely a cutscene. And it was definitely a longer one. Ben Moore bet 3 minutes. Ian Hink bet 1 minute, 12 seconds. Bloodworth bet 2 minutes, 21 seconds. And I bet 1 minute 20 seconds. Again, this is the first cutscene of Wrath of the Druids. 1 minute and 40 seconds. I will play this at the end of this podcast if you want to listen to it to make sure, or you can vote for yourself whether you think this is officially the first cutscene. But I mean, you boot up the game and it's like, Wrath of the Druid, you want to play it? Talk to that person. I talked to that person. That person talked to me for 1 minute and 40 seconds. Blood, you almost won this by a second.
Oh.
I was at 120. Oh no, I would have been at 1. Yes, wait. I was at 120. You were at 220. So if it's at 140, 221. So if it's at 140, I am 20 seconds away. Whereas you were 41 seconds away, right? Yes, right? Never mind. You weren't close at all.
The way you explain that, we have no idea, Jones.
Jones, bad math. Final scores now. Jovial Penguins 11.
My babies!
Hiya, Max. Remember me? I'm Fred's hand.
Vociferous Beavers 10.
Nom 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 nom.
Let me tell you about patreon.com/easyallies. I don't know if you could feel, Ian, the energy when we recorded that Resident Evil spoiler mode. I was bursting
losing
at the
my
seams
marbles.
to talk about
We were all trying to scream over each other. I worried that it would be unlistenable.
We had a meeting a couple days before we recorded it, and like it started to like it's like when a bandage opens up and it starts bleeding again. You're just like, wait, stop! Like put a thumb in the dike. Like no, like we saved this for the spoiler mode. Because that was it. I mean, that was like none of us knew how the other people. I said I thought the ending was kind of weird. It was like you could feel the emotional ripples going through the crowd. So it was a dynamite conversation. A game I was so curious what the other allies thought of, and varied opinions across the board. Yeah, fun, but exclusive. If you listen to this podcast, you're getting it on Sunday. If you are not a patron of Easy Allies, that and all the other spoiler modes we've done are behind that brutal $1 paywall. If you want to get all of that content,
very fair $1 paywall minimum.
Yeah, if you want to jump in, you get that and a lot of other fun exclusive shows. But that one was really good. I could tell it was like there's some kind of energy because we were doesn't always happen, but we're all going to be dialed in on that. 6 people on that spoiler mode. It's a lot of voices. At the very top of our Patreon is our shout out tier. Shout out to Nick before I even get into any of these names, who actually was a patron. Actually was at the shout out tier last week, but we did not give a shout out to them. Ian, you're going first. I'm going after you. Damiani going after me, and Blood, you're going after Damiani, as we shout out these wonderful patrons at our top tier, patreon.com/easyallies. Shout out to Caleb Togi Crawford, Edgar, So I'm Spider, So What, L Thanos, Ezdokal, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, and Nick. Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
You like waited and you did it on one podcast earlier. You
know,
picked up on what I was doing. You're paying too close attention to me.
Yeah.
This is work, moderating this podcast. Let me have my fun. Jeez.
All right.
End of the shout-out segment. I get the last laugh because I get to end this podcast, you hear? I get to promote an Easy Eyes video I'd like to promote. I get the final word on anything I disagreed with, want to reiterate, or just popped into my head. And I get to sign off with my trademark sign-off. Hey, I'm going to start with the final word. I enjoyed this podcast. That's what they thinks. It's all of you. It was great. There was a lot of other crazy things. There's Hall of Fame. My math was bad. You know, I brought up the court case 2 weeks in a row. I don't know nothing about law, and all of you are just you treat me very well as moderator. I just felt good talking about all these issues. And I just want to share that. I had a good time moderating this podcast. Next Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., I'm going to begin Mass Effect 1. I am most likely going to start playing Mass Effect 2 after I'm done with Mass Effect 1, and then Mass Effect 3 when I'm done with Mass Effect 2. But I don't know. We'll see. Let's take one game at a time. That is going to be a full playthrough from me on twitch.tv/easyallies. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. is when I'm going to start that. I will maybe do it again on Saturdays mornings, or I will maybe do Saturday mornings, which is my other stream time that's worked out for me, and Animal Crossing and other things. If Wednesday doesn't work out, if I have to cancel that or something, I'll try to pick those up on Saturdays. It's just stream for 2 hours. I might extend that. I don't know. Got a lot of Mass Effect to play is basically what I'm saying. Looking forward. This is going to be my first time ever diving into any of those games. Yeah,
You're going to be at it for a long time.
Not going to get a lot. Speaking of long cutscenes, I'm just going to be probably listening to a lot of people talking on Wednesday. But very excited about that. And cheers.
Are you going to do the lines
Yeah.
thing? Whee! I love that.
Gotta include that word market before penetration, man. They teach that in college.
Perhaps you can aid me in locating Hytham.
What is your purpose with him?
I have brought a sampling of goods from Ireland. That is, if I can bring my ships to dock.
Azar! I see you've met Eivor Wolfkist.
Ah, so you are Eivor. In fact, I bring you a message from Ireland.
I know no one in Ireland.
The letter is from Dublin's king. Sadly, I seem to have misplaced it.
The King of Dublin. Why would such a one write to me?
He wishes to expand trade to England. The purpose of my bringing goods here.
Azar is from the east, but lives in Ireland now. But in matters of trade, Azar, your king should petition Randvi.
He claims to know Eivor. He asked me to accompany you on the trip there.
I know no king, and I'm certainly not about to journey to Ireland.
But first, Azar, you must build a trading post. In fact, where is your trade ship?
Ah, yes. An unfortunate incident, most concerning. Trading rivals have blocked the river and thus my goods.
A blocked river hurts all Ravensthorpe. Stay. I will put things right.
As you see, Eivor is a person of action. Find me later, when the river is safely clear.
Of course, my friend. I thank you, Eivor. I will find the king's letter in the meantime.
You keep insisting that I know an Irish king. It is a fantasy.